Okay, so we have one person here. I guess I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm reviewing that debate that I did last week, and this is a very long discussion. So, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and play it, and if people miss parts of it, they can just catch the replay. So let me go to the different screen. All right, so here we are. No, I want to make this larger. Okay, theater mode. That's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and start playing it. Then I'll just give commentary as it's doing this thing.
Oops. What is good, everybody? So, tonight we've got a debate that I am not moderating. Somebody specific was requested for moderation on this one, and it should be loads of fun as usual. But first, I wanted to pop up, say good to see everybody. I am back and have an actual decent machine to stream off of now. So, things should be looking much better than what I was trying to do off of a 10-year-old freaking laptop. And without further ado, let's bring up my homie. What's up, 10th?
What's up, peepity deeps?
And we have our debaters. Guys, I'm going to hand it over to 10th man.
So everybody, we're here for the AVG versus life abolitionism. Human beings should stop.
Before I continue, I just want to let you all know that for the debate preparation, we did have to cross-reference sources. I had statistics related to overpopulation and the deleterious effects that procreation has on the environment, and oversupply leads to depressed wages. I could have debated her on those points, on the economics, on the environmental sustainability, and my position as it relates to overpopulation, but I didn't really stick to the script because I felt the ethics were stronger arguments. They were more compelling about the harm, and I also wanted to debate her specifically about the right to medical assistance in dying, but she wanted to debate whether, the original debate topic was going to be whether procreation is good for society. And I really didn't want to argue that because I know that it benefits society. It just comes at the person's expense. So we did compromise, and then we just settled on the topic, should human beings stop procreating, and I took the affirmative position.
Stop procreate. No, you should still be up here, Beth. You don't have to have your camera on. You should still always be up here. It's your
Why
channel.
should I always still be up here? I can hide in the back.
No,
Look,
you
I
need to
even
have
made a special layout. See?
Do what you do.
Shit.
I'd rather you be up here, but okay. Bring abolitionism back. I don't know what you just did. There we go. That's very nice. So everybody, as I said, we're here to.
And for those of you who are wondering why I didn't cam up, I think some of you probably know the reason why, because I didn't want this to be hijacked and used for nefarious purposes. I would have loved to cam up, but unfortunately I don't have the luxury of doing that when there's people lurking around. So I apologize for those who wanted me to cam up, but I don't think I will be camming up as long as anyway, I don't want to address that, but I just want you guys to know why I didn't.
Debate whether or not human beings should stop procreating. We're going to start with 10 minutes each and then an hour and 15 minutes of arguments afterwards. I will be writing down questions that I have for each of the participants to ask after everything is over, just to tie things up with a nice little bow. But who will be going first? Did we do a coin toss or somebody passing up first go?
No, he's the affirmative, so you might want to switch us 10th.
Okay.
He's going first.
There you go. All right. Life abolitionism, 10 minutes and go.
Hi, everybody. I am Jay Charles, author of Whose Life Is It? The Moral Death of Life Enslavement. Tonight, I'm going to be arguing the affirmative that human beings should stop procreating. Before I make this argument, I want you to sit with what it actually means to bring someone into his existence. Excuse me. To create a person is to sentence them without asking to a body that will get sick, to make them feel real physical pain, everything from having a scraped knee to bone fractures to a cancer diagnosis and everything in between. It's to guarantee that they will feel hunger, that they will experience thirst, exhaustion, and fear. It is to guarantee that they will lose loved ones and they will carry this grief for the rest of their life. They will experience heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and a slow, undignified process of dying and aging. Year by year, they will decline. And the clueless part about this is that they never asked for this. They never consented. This is not the exception. This applies to everyone. There may be cases where people experience more suffering, but at the very least, everyone has to suffer and everyone has to die. This is the baseline, regardless of your individual circumstances. This has been the curse that has plagued human existence since the beginning of the creation of life or sentience. Every single person will suffer and die. There are no exemptions. There are no exceptions. The imposition of life is not a neutral. It's not a neutral state. Yes, you can call it a gift if you want to, but it's a gift that the person did not ask for. They did not consent. They could not possibly consent because they didn't exist. And you may think that life comes with joy. I don't think the joy offsets the suffering. You don't have a duty to give someone joy, but you do have a duty to not impose suffering on someone without their consent. The joy only offsets the suffering, but the suffering is not justified. Suffering is the baseline. And so what happens in society is completely irrelevant. We can talk about. The reason why I said that is because she wanted to debate whether procreation benefits society. I stipulate that it does. I think that point is irrelevant. Your duties to your country, to your family, once you exist. But the original imposition is completely unjustified. So the only statistic that is relevant for this conversation is that there's not a single person who currently exists or who will ever exist who has ever consented to being brought
into existence. That is the.
Just to let you know, the statistics that I had, which I didn't present, I had all these happiness studies. I had studies about depression, about suicide, about unemployment, about overpopulation. I had all these statistics, but I didn't think they were compelling. I just really wanted to address the ethics of it.
The only statistic that I need to win this debate. The arguments about declining birth rates, labor markets, civilization's continuity are completely irrelevant. My arguments are more qualitative than quantitative. I'm going to be arguing about the ethics of procreation. I don't care about civilization. I don't consent to civilization. I exist within civilization as a result of the imposition that my parents made. It is not a choice, and the alternatives are not much better, but I didn't choose that either. Every person will carry pain, and I don't think civilization necessarily minimizes that. In fact, civilization can actually compound it, especially given that civilization prevents people from a dignified death. I'm not saying that life contains no joy, no meaning. I'm saying that it's not justified, that the person didn't consent. Yes, you may find subjective meaning. You may try to give your life meaning by the choices that you make, but there is no objective meaning. There is no meaning at the cosmic level. Meaning, the only meaning you can give to your life is at the terrestrial level. Most people will be completely forgotten within 3 generations. For the purpose.
And by the way, that argument came from Benatar. What was it? The Human Predicament. Yeah, I don't know if you all read that book, but that's what he said. Well, I don't remember. He said 2 generations or 3 generations, but he did explain in detail how our lives have no meaning at the terrestrial level or at the cosmic level, but only at the terrestrial level, that we can try to find subjective meaning, but there is no objective purpose for life.
The purpose of this debate, I'm willing to stipulate that procreation benefits society. That is not, I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to concede that point right now. It does sustain economies. It does create a populace to care for the aging. It does preserve culture. I don't need to negate that to win this debate. A benefit to society does not create justification for imposing the serious, irreversible harm on a person who did not give their consent. Consent in every other context would be taken seriously. If you were to have sex with someone without their consent, that would be considered a violation. If you were to force someone to provide labor, you would call that slavery. You would call that a human injustice. Yet, for some reason, when it comes to procreation, everyone seems to ignore it. They seem to forget how you got here, that you were actually created by 2 parents who did not ask for your consent and could not get your consent. The problem with procreation is structural, not incidental. If you were to reach out into the void and ask the person who doesn't exist, would they consent to 80 plus years of suffering and death, obedience to a state that they did not consent to, being subjected to all kinds of state tyranny, having to obey unjust laws, having their reproductive functions controlled and dictated by society, having to work for some corporation, not having any meaningful rights because the state has sovereign immunity or qualified immunity.
This is interesting because prior to this debate, I never looked into Canadian law. Their legal system is completely different. I need to do a deep dive into this because I don't think every country has qualified immunity. This seems to be something very specific to America. understand. I don't understand Canadian law because they're still technically under the British Crown. But it almost seems like the Canadians have more rights than Americans, which is very interesting.
Yes, you can escape civilization. Maybe you can go live off the grid. There's not a single place on this planet that isn't monopolized by the state. My book, Whose Life Is It? The Moral Debt for Life Enslavement, addresses all of these issues. So regardless of your culture, regardless of your geographic location, you didn't choose all that. And yes, maybe you can do things to try to mitigate your suffering. You shouldn't have to. You should not have to work to crawl your way up, to work your way. You shouldn't even have to maintain your involuntary existence. It's not your life. You don't actually own it. And that is something that no one has ever demonstrated, that it is your life. Your life is owned by the state. It doesn't necessarily benefit you unless you wanted to, but I'm just going to speak for myself. My life does not benefit me. My life benefits society. It benefits the state. And what makes procreation so...
2-minute warning.
Am I out of time?
2-minute warning.
And what makes procreation particularly egregious is the fact that medical assistance in dying has been criminalized. So you must go through extraordinary means in order to escape the imposed existence that you never consented in the first place. So you're trapped. You're trapped to live 80 plus years of drudgery because your parents decided to procreate. And that is not justified just to sustain a declining population.
One minute.
Okay, that's fine. I can stop here.
No, you can go 1 more minute.
I expect my opponent to argue that declining birth rates threaten civilization. She's going to make appeals to necessity, that we need to procreate. She's never going to explain why we need civilization in the first place. Or
I want you to take note of that because she never actually explained why we need civilization. She just basically made appeals to necessity. She just sort of assumed that we need civilization, but she never actually demonstrated it. Maybe I should have pushed that issue a little bit more, but you can't really interrupt when you're having these debates, when you have these thoughts. And then I got a lot of pushback, so I'm trying to clarify. There's a lot of back and forth. But I really wanted her to explain why we need civilization. I don't think we ever got to that point.
Why procreating absent consent is justified. What I expect is that if I don't like civilization, I can leave. If I don't like life, I can just whatever. I don't expect the consent argument to be addressed by my opponent at all.
No, it really wasn't. It really was not. I mean, you can call me Miss Cleo, but I didn't hear her address consent at all. She basically said consent doesn't matter. She said that I don't want to paraphrase. You'll eventually hear her own words for those of you who stick around, but I don't think she really cares about consent.
What I expect is to be told, sorry, your life sucks. What I expect is to be told that this is a personal failing for me to overcome and adapt to circumstances that I never chose in the first place. I don't expect any empathy. I expect appeals to necessity, appeals to religion, appeals to tradition. So my arguments are going to be primarily based on consent. And the only statistic that I need is that no one...
That'll be it. All right, let's reset the timer. Remember, we have an hour and 15 minutes after both of you to argue it out. I've already got lots of questions for you guys, but I'm going to fine tune it.
Y'all see how I used up all of my time because I have so much to say on this topic. She didn't use all of her time. I mean, between her and Beth, their limited exposure to quote unquote antinatalism is the debate that Amanda did on somebody else's channel. I can't remember, some conservative. So that's the only thing they know about antinatalism is whatever Amanda said. So, but they don't know anything about Benatar, Schopenhauer. They don't know the actual philosophy of it. Yeah, and of course, what they heard was not even antinatalism; it was ephilism. So I don't know. I don't think. Well, let me just reframe that. I think this debate was helpful to the extent that I exposed that community to this whole philosophy. I don't know how many people actually listen to it, but between the three or four channels that shared it, I'm sure there's more people who now are familiar with antinatalism. And by the way, I'm not even a traditional antinatalist. I call myself a life abolitionist because I'm against procreation, but I am also for the natural right to medical assistance in dying, to self-ownership. My philosophy is a little bit more modified. I don't think that I'm presenting myself as a traditional antinatalist.
All right. Sorry, it's taking me a second here to move to that. And go ahead, Paige, your 10 minutes.
ABG.
Sorry, ABG, go ahead.
Wow, I certainly did not expect my opponent to concede the debate in his opening, for it logically follows that if there is a reason for humans to procreate, such as a societal benefit, like my opponent admitted, then there is no reason for them to stop.
No reason. So there's a societal benefit that comes at your expense, and she just does not think that is a serious concern. Of course, every breeder wants to extract, but here's her admitting it. I just chronicleize every major suffering, your death, age and decline, societal injustice. She doesn't care about any of that. It's just that society can benefit. This is why I say I think every breeder, especially civilized society, is a statist. No matter how you spin it, you can say that you're anarchist, you can say you're libertarian, but if you procreate, you are directly responsible for the state's continuity. By definition, that makes you a statist. You're not raising your children in a state of nature, you're raising them in a state of society. So I think you necessarily have to be a statist in order to be a breeder. I just don't see any way about it. It's basically you're going to sell your children out, you're going to enslave them because you think the state can benefit. So you're literally throwing your children under the bus. You're throwing them under the bus to the state, to these corporations. And to her, this is very funny. This is a joke. This is so, I don't know, it's so disappointing, the lack of empathy that humans have for their own children and their own potential children.
The antinatalist position is a baffling one. It requires an individual to see generations of struggle and victory, heartbreak and love, and to even defy the odds themselves, to be born into a society where things are better than they were centuries ago, and to say, damn it all to hell. Regardless of what they assert, antinatalists do hold an inherently selfish and at the same time self-defeating view. They frequently discard logical entailments, such as the necessity of societal infrastructure and consent being impossible in all forms of life-changing decisions.
Again, appeals to necessity. Who cares about the benefits of society? She didn't explain why we need civilization in the first place. She's just saying, oh, we need human beings to sustain it. And so we're selfish because we don't want to sacrifice our potential children for the benefit of society. You may want to be a sacrificial animal. You may want to be a slave. You don't have the right to enslave your children.
Decisions in favor of fake virtue signaling and false promises. For instance, all life is suffering. Why not prevent that from even being a possibility? Or we already have enough resources. and AI can easily assume the burden of lost workers, humans live longer, have access to better medical care and technology, and generally do not face the burdens that our ancestors did in order to survive.
And our ancestors didn't face the burdens that we have. Our ancestors were not slaves to corporations. Our ancestors actually owned their lives. They didn't have to pay just to exist, right? Never before in history have humans had to pay just to exist. Only the civilized human being has to do that. The birds don't have to pay to exist. The squirrels, the cats, the dogs, the raccoons, any feral animal gets to exist without having to pay. And the price is substantial. And my position is, if society benefits so much from all this extraction, why do we have to pay for it? Shouldn't they be paying us? They should be paying us to live because we benefit society so much. But no, if they're receiving all this extraction without paying for it, what do you call that? I call it life slavery, that you exist for other people's benefit and they don't have to pay anything. You have to pay, everything comes at your expense and they reap all the benefits. And she thinks it's just funny.
And despite what my opponent will likely argue, we do not have a resources consumption-based issue stemming from population when it comes to essential living components like food and electricity. According to the UN Environment Program, low-income countries, which generally have more population growth than their first world counterparts, consume 6 times less materials and generate 10 times less climate impacts than those living in high.
I don't know why she thought she was making some kind of compelling argument with this point. I didn't address it just because the way the conversation progressed, we never got back to it. But actually, the studies show that if you live in a developed country like America, you actually consume 20 to 60 times as many resources as someone in the global South. And so the sustainability argument that she's talking about, it really is a problem for the developed countries, not the third world. Those people are zero waste. They live off the land. They build their mud huts. They hunt, they forage. There is no waste. They have no carbon footprint. They are in tune with nature. So she actually thought she was telling me something. These people don't have to work because all they have to do is build their shelter and then just find enough food to sustain themselves. I don't know what point she thought she was making.
High-income countries successfully advancing in any natalist position.
Income is not something that exists in nature. This paper money, the centralized banking system, this is not natural. So I don't know how you're comparing income to countries who never chose to be a part of the centralized banking system in the first place.
In a debate requires the debater to do a fair bit of crystal ball predictions. Specifically, it requires them to establish that increasing the population would reduce the quality of living, despite how the population reduction was divided initially.
It does destroy the quality of living. It increases housing prices. It causes traffic jams. It leads to overcrowded schools. It leads to unemployment. It leads to higher food prices, higher gas prices. It leads to more authoritarianism. The more people there are, the more controls there has to be to herd everybody like sheep. It also dilutes the power of your individual vote. The more people there are, the less your individual vote matters. That's why the government is so unresponsive, because they don't need your vote. They can just appeal to the next demographic. We didn't get to any of that because I don't know. I didn't want to debate her on those points. I just really wasn't interested in that. But we could have had that discussion also.
This is also unpredictable. To establish that any burden the fresh generation of humans might put on the existing system would not be offset by their contributions and or newly discovered technological or other advancements. And perhaps, most importantly, to establish that if the future humans were to be born, that the suffering that they would experience in their lifetimes would be significant enough for them to have willingly chose to not have been born had they possessed, this is the key component here, right? The faculties to do so. Yeah, you can't get consent from an unborn person. Okay. And ultimately, it just comes down to feelings. Anti-natalist arguments stem from things like suffering bad and making babies is wrong, or no consent, no bueno. These are all moral assumptions stemming from subjective, personally held belief.
It's not subjective, especially if you read my book. Let me pause right now, because I want to show y'all. This is from chapter 9 of my book, The Life Slave's Ledger. Because what she's going to eventually argue is that the proportionality leans on the side of the breeders, that the suffering or the costs are not that great or substantial. No, she's so wrong. Obviously, we have been discussing this debate for weeks. I did offer to give her my book for free. I guess she wasn't interested, but not feelings. I have quantitative data in my book. What are the costs imposed? 31.7 years on maintenance. That's sleeping, showering, working. 1.9 million spent on daily deterioration and then death. Economic, 1.2 to 2.4 million in costs. 250 hours of forced labor, because we do have work or starve coercion. If you don't work, then you'll starve. 2.7 million of surplus value extracted. 805,000 extracted in Texas. The psychological, the consciousness burden, existential threat, emotional suffering, mental illness risk, temporal. 54% of life is spent on mandatory activities. Only 42 to 46% for autonomous, meaning things that you actually enjoy. Social, forced relationships, emotional labor, social ostracism for non-compliance. So, and there's a lot in there, which I explained in chapter 9. You have to, well, actually it was chapter 7. The smile or starve coercion. You have to smile, present a fake happy face. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to deal with you. Nobody's going to hire you. And you're just going to live a life of destitution and isolation. I can accept the isolation, but the destitution part, sometimes you put on a smile even though you don't feel like it, just to get through the day. And of course, they're constantly asking you, how are you doing? How are you doing? You have to lie and say, oh, I'm wonderful. Fantastic. Outstanding, right? All that shit takes an emotional toll on you. Systemic. Daily state violence. And I know they don't see the violence. The traffic light is violence. Your occupational license requirements are violence. The taxes, the censorship, the surveillance, all of that shit. Rights without remedies, because, well, if they violate your rights, it's going to be dismissed procedurally based on the fact that they have immunity, qualified immunity, prosecutorial immunity, judicial immunity, whatever, sovereign immunity. So if you don't have any enforceable rights, then you basically don't have rights. If they can't be enforced through the legal system, they may as well not even exist. And I know people don't know this because they haven't litigated cases. They assume that they have rights. Oh, I have constitutional rights. I have civil liberty. No, the hell you don't. They can do whatever they want and get away with it. every attorney is in America, they all know this. They have just been indoctrinated to see it as legitimate because they have all these convenient excuses about how it benefits society to prevent you from exercising your rights. Because if you were able to sue the state, well, that would put a drain on the state treasury, which would hurt everybody. Mind you, that the 11th Amendment only says that citizens of foreign states can't sue another state. But it doesn't say that you can't sue your own state. That's some bullshit doctrine that the Supreme Court made up. It's not in the Constitution. And I know the legal issues are boring and people don't understand why I'm harping on them. But it is relevant because it is a total system of enslavement. Identity. Your father's last name is imposed on you. You have family burdens. You may want to live your life a certain way, but society has indoctrinated you to put your family first. So even if you were raised with a toxic, abusive family, well, you just learn to tolerate it because society says that's what you have to do. You should honor your parents, no matter how abusive they are. You have a genetic inheritance that is imposed without your consent. You may have disabilities. You may have genetic predispositions. All that shit was imposed. She said that I'm going off feelings. No, I documented the costs, which are substantial. And if you want greater detail of what these costs are, you can read chapter 9 of my book. Existential, meaninglessness with no solution. You may find that your life has no meaning, but you're still stuck with it. Mortality awareness, most people are terrified of death. Even the very people who claim to love life, they're terrified of dying. Suffer with no purpose. They can't tell you what is the purpose of life. It's always so mystic. Everything happens for a reason. Life serves a purpose, but they can't tell you what it is. Unless it's based in mysticism. They can tell you that it serves God. They can't prove that God exists, but all these arguments are circular. You receive no compensation from your parents, no compensation from the state, no compensation from society. Yes, she's going to tell you that it benefits society, but what she's not going to tell you is what remuneration did you receive for providing these benefits? Nothing. You're a slave. They force these impositions on you without your consent. You're forced to keep providing them because you don't have any exit rights. So in any other context, you would call that slavery. So I just want to clarify the point that she made, the argument that she made that I was going off feelings. No, chapter 9 of my book is well documented quantitatively. All right, now let's go back to the video.
The fact is that not all suffering is bad. It makes us stronger, and families give people purpose. And with that, I yield.
Holy moly. Okay.
So I used my entire 5 minutes, and that diatribe was, I don't know, maybe slightly over a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think she even addressed half of the things that I said. She still was focusing on how procreation benefits society, which I already conceded that point. So that intro, this is so funny. And look at how she's so proud of herself. Like, she really destroyed me. Look at her. I mean, I know I didn't cam up, but by the way, when she was talking, I really wasn't looking at the video. I don't know. I was just focusing on my points. But look at how smart she is. This is hilarious.
Well, you still had 6 minutes, 45 seconds left.
I don't need it.
All right, let's
Actually, you did need it. You absolutely needed it because you didn't address anything that I said. So this drank from your cup. And by the way, y'all, okay, let me stop because I don't know if I should be telling. I think she's already talked about it on YouTube, so I guess I can say it. She is an attorney. She is a Canadian attorney. So I just wanted y'all to know that I can hold my own against an attorney. Done it many times. I'm doing it right now with this prosecutor who thought he could go toe to toe. Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, a timer for an hour and 15 minutes then. 5. There. All right.
Let me know.
Argue.
All right. Yeah. So, life abolitionism. You said that suffering is a baseline. Can you establish that to me? That everybody experiences suffering and it's of equal and increasing value, and not the worst case.
Well, your body has needs in order to maintain itself. You have to constantly consume food. Otherwise, you will experience a perpetual state of hunger. Your body must maintain equilibrium, meaning you're going to need some type of temperature regulation, whether it's staying out of the heat or staying out of the cold. You're going to need to constantly defend yourself from threats. And I know you may think that civilization mitigates that, but still the status is its own threat.
So you're just talking about biological functions. You're saying that biological functions are
I'm talking about suffering. I'm talking about getting bitten by mosquitoes, falling off a bike. I'm talking about aging and declining. I'm talking about heart attacks. I'm talking about breathing in.
The reason I know she wanted to stick to the whole mosquito point that I made. The whole point of me bringing up mosquitoes is that if you were to weigh the suffering against the joy, the suffering far exceeds the joy. It's just that they're not considering the small suffering or the pain. Like they're not counting that at all. That this whole Pollyanna bias, where they only want to focus on the joy. They're not focusing on the mosquito bites. They're not focusing on the fact that you tripped and scraped your knee. You didn't consent to any of that. They just want to act like life is a gift, that there are no costs. So she said that I was going off feelings, right? No, I'm quantifying the suffering. It includes everything from the mosquito bites, the bone fractures, the aging and declining, and the eventual death. I don't think that I was making an absurd argument. I'm just stating the obvious, the things that people want to gloss over.
And pollution, I'm talking about all of that. I'm talking about your menstrual cycle, all of these things
that's enough to just want to not be here. Like, oh, I got bit by a mosquito. I wish I wouldn't have been born. Like, oh,
yes,
got my period.
I am talking about mosquitoes. All of it.
God. Are you for real? Okay, so you need to make it proportionate. Serious. Okay, so it needs to be proportionate.
I didn't consent to being bitten by mosquitoes.
Okay. So can I just explain something to you? So there's a proportionality. So what you're trying to convince me to do is to like say to people, hey, don't procreate, right?
I just addressed the proportionality. I mean, again, I offered to give her my book, but the proportionality is the Life Slaves Ledger, chapter 9 of my book, where I explain in detail the costs that are imposed on you and the lack of remuneration for any of the benefits that you provided to your parents and to society.
Stop procreating. Don't give people an opportunity to even be born. So the suffering that you're...
It's not an opportunity to be born. It is an imposition. It is a very cruel imposition. It is not an opportunity. It's not something that they ask for. It's not a gift that they can reject. They are trapped.
You're asserting that they're going to experience has to be proportionate enough that the person would be like, oh, well, geez, that's horrible. I would have rather not been born. Do you really think that somebody faces a mosquito bite that's maybe a bit inflamed for a couple days and they're like, you know what? Or maybe they get a disease, worst case scenario, right? And they get treated for it and then they're like, oh, damn, that was awful. I wish I would have never been born. Do you really think that's proportionate?
Okay, let's talk about something more serious. Most people are terrified of death. In fact, that is, I know there's probably not any studies to show this, but
It's a biological
the reason-
imperative.
their
To
reason
live.
for
Again, she's making appeals to necessity. It's a biological imperative, but that imposition of life is cause, or it actually leads to death. So you're not just giving someone life, you're also giving them death. You are directly responsible when you procreate. But again, she doesn't want to address this. She wants to say that I'm just going off feelings. Again, I'm just stating the obvious. This is the shit that nobody wants to address, that they just want to they just want to focus on the positive. They don't want to hear this shit.
procreating is their fear of their own annihilation. They're trying to cheat death through procreation. And yet I don't understand that, because they're actually ensuring that more generations will die. So if you were to survey most people, they don't want to die. And I'm sure you
Right. The whole pro-life, which she is pro-life, that whole culture, that whole I don't know if you can call it like an occult. A cult, excuse me. I think it's a cult. I think the pro-life cult is pro-death, decidedly. They seem to get some kind of sadistic pleasure out of death. Every baby that is born is going to die, but they seem to disassociate that baby from the person who eventually dies. It's just as if those parents are not directly responsible for it. They are. From cradle to grave, everything that happens in between is directly caused by their parents. And I'm sorry, I'm stating the obvious, but I think it has to be said. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be walking on eggshells. I know there are people, because I do stream on both of my channels, people who listen to this. Some of these people already have children, and they may feel offended. I don't really care, because this isn't about the children that you already have. This is about hopefully persuading you not to have any more children. I'm trying to persuade you, because there are more extreme people who don't think that persuasion is the right approach. They think that it should be like sentience should be eliminated through force. You know, some of these people would push the red button. So when these people give me so much pushback to show that they can't be reasoned with, all they're doing is demonstrating that, well, maybe, I mean, since they don't seem to give a fuck about consent, maybe we shouldn't respect their choices either. Because there are people who are more extreme than I am who would push the red button. I never argued that. That's something that Amanda argued when she was debating. I can't remember that woman's name, that Republican lady with all those damn children. At the end of the day, I don't really care like where you fall on the spectrum. I think the more the merrier, the more extreme. I think this needs to be attacked from every angle. I'm attacking it from the legal angle. There are people who attack it from the I don't know, the sentience and the DNA level. I don't really care. At the end of the day, the conclusion is the same. It's wrong. It is an imposition. How you arrive at that conclusion is completely irrelevant. I think all these arguments are complementary. I don't think there's a single correct approach to address this problem.
Yourself included, you don't want to die, and yet you would inflict death onto another generation.
So that doesn't mean that I don't want to live. And you still haven't answered my question. How is it proportionate, the amount? Like, even like, let's say you have a horrible health condition. Does that mean that you just wish that you wouldn't have lived at all?
No, what it means is that was of course, once you're here, then you have an interest in your own preservation. Now you are invested in your relationships and whatever plans you had. But if you had the choice to not experience that suffering in the first place, yes, that would have been the more ethical and the more practical solution. If you actually care about eliminating suffering, not just mitigating it, but completely eliminating suffering and death, antinatalism is the only correct position. But if you're not an antinatalist and you do support procreation, then you accept everything that comes with it. You accept death, the suffering, the injustice. I don't see how people have this cognitive dissonance where they act as if they're only giving joy and love. It's like, no. Procreation is the root cause of all of this. So you have to accept full responsibility. Own it, stand 10 toes deep. Accept full responsibility that you are causing people to suffer and die. And stop trying to obfuscate. Stop trying to say it's society's problem. No, you did it. The parents did it, and they are directly responsible for all of it.
Like, we're talking about total eradication here. Like, there needs to be a significant, like, I'm not denying that there's some people that exist out there that they have a horrible medical condition where they can't even live normal lives and every single moment is pain. But that's not the general experience like you seem to purport in your opening. You said suffering is a base.
I don't have any serious medical conditions, and yet I'm still miserable. I don't understand why they act like only those who are disabled are somehow the only people who should get medical assistance. No, what about the rest of us? I keep stopping. I have so much to say. Maybe I need to let it play a little bit more.
Baseline. You're leading us to believe that everybody's like stage 5 cancer patient with like horrendous body pains and they can't do anything, right? Then like, that's the general experience.
On what you count as suffering. But if I did give you David Benatar's book, Better Never to Have Been. David Benatar counts all suffering, everything as minimal as a mosquito bite to the more extreme versions of suffering, and none of it was consensual. So I know you think that I don't know, maybe this is hyperbole or I shouldn't be taken seriously, but no, the bottom line is that when you procreate, you're playing Russian roulette. You're taking risk with someone else's life. There's an endless potential for suffering, and all of it is completely foreseeable. So maybe you did have a good life, but you're not in control of that. You don't know if your country is going to become war torn.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You are so right. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're so glib about it. It's not as if these people are ignorant. They know it. They are imposing life, suffering, and death onto their children in cold blood. It's exactly what Schopenhauer said.
I'm sure that the people who procreated in Germany didn't realize there was going to be a Holocaust, but they decided to gamble anyway and then look at the outcome. So I'm not sure why humans are no smarter than cats and dogs, that we can't ignore our biological drives and actually have some empathy for our potential offspring. I'm not sure why humans are less empathetic than or equally as unempathetic as bacteria. And I'm not sure why this is funny, by the way. I'm not sure why this is a joke. There are people who are experiencing real suffering.
Who's
every
laughing?
day.
Is somebody laughing?
Well, maybe not right now, but earlier you were like you thought it was funny.
She was laughing. Again, I'm not trying to shame her because she did cam up and I didn't, but she was laughing the whole time. She thought this whole thing was funny.
Like, this is not a joke.
Yeah, but that wasn't about the whole thing. It was about the specific thing that you were saying at that time.
That's not fair.
No, it's okay. No, I saw it too. And if I thought it was out of line, I would have probably said, hey, let's hold it again.
I think she probably was laughing at the whole mosquito bite thing. No, this isn't. I mean, I wasn't making appeals to emotions. I was trying to quantify the harm that is caused by the imposition of life. Those mosquito bites are included. Whether you think that's trivial or not, it is still something that should be factored in. You need to count everything. Because the way it is being weighted is completely biased. It's arbitrary to say that life has so much joy, but you're not counting all of the suffering. You're not causing all of the harm, or counting all of the harm, excuse me.
But it was
No.
about the specific thing that you were saying, and even I was smiling and kind of giggling.
No, I apologize for that because you are on camera and I'm
don't worry,
not.
let's pull it together.
No, but you're on camera and I don't think it's fair for me to critique your facial expression.
Body language.
Okay, so can I explain where I'm going? Because
we're all friends.
Right now, this is how I understand your argument. Okay, we should not have children because there is a chance that that child could get, like the flu a few times. They might be bitten by a mosquito. So the kind thing to do is to just not have them be born. That's your argument, correct?
Well, it's the only way to guarantee that they won't suffer and die.
Well, if they're never born, they'll never experience joy. Isn't that suffering?
Right, but you don't have a duty to
yes,
joy.
It is.
I think she's I don't want to insult her, but I think she is not familiar with antinatalism as the actual philosophy. Again, her only relationship to antinatalism, her only reference to antinatalism is that debate that Amanda did. I don't think she's read any of the literature. So I feel like I was almost talking past her because she doesn't even know what I'm talking about.
Suffering.
If she had even looked at the asymmetry chart by Benatar, then I think she would understand what I was saying.
You don't.
It is
no.
suffering.
Wait. Someone who doesn't exist does not suffer from not experiencing joy. They only suffer once they're brought into existence. So
if they know that they could have had that life, would that not be painful for them?
I provided you David Benatar's book. I'm not sure if you looked up the asymmetry chart.
Tell me why I should bring it up and tell me his specific portion and his credentials and why should we even back what he's saying? Because from what I understand, he also rejects proportionality logic because he's saying you told me before, I'm assuming this is correct, that he says that even any kind of suffering, like a mosquito bite, is suffering, and that would justify your position that you're advancing today. And I think that's an argument in ridiculousness, to be quite frank with you.
It's not even just the harm that we experience ourselves.
Let me tell you why it's not ridiculous. If a person were to walk up to you and like prick you, let's say instead of the mosquito bite, they used a needle. What would be an appropriate response? If somebody poke you with a needle, would it be inappropriate to slap the shit out them? It is an assault. It is a battery, right? And so, in the real case, maybe your parents are not poking you with a needle, but they did impose life for you and to put you in a circumstance where you're going to be bitten by mosquitoes. That is a battery that you did not consent to. And if an actual person were to do that to you, you would recognize it as a battery. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. I guess she's trying to, her argument only makes sense if you consent to it. Meaning, obviously it's impossible to consent before you're born. But once you're here, maybe you say that the mosquito bites are not serious enough for you to not want to exist. But for someone like me who does not consent to existing, yes, every time I get bitten by a mosquito, that is a compounded battery that I do not consent to. So you cannot just gloss over that. That is something I did not choose. It is a continuous battery against a non-consenting human being. Of course, these arguments, again, this is an attorney. But I don't know what her undergrad was in. Granted, I was a political science major, but these are philosophical arguments. These are ethical arguments. I know a lot of you thought that my book was overly legalistic, but for somebody like her, if she actually read my book, I think she would actually get something from it.
is also the harm that we cause to others. Now, I'm not a vegan, but just by existing, we do cause harm to animals. And so I'm against procreation for that in that aspect. I mean, and I'm sure you're not a vegan either, but if you look at the harm, humans are the most destructive species on the planet. We cause infinite destruction to the environment, to other life forms, and we cause harm to each other. And because humans are so territorial, and because they want to consume so many resources, yes, they have no problem oppressing others in this capitalistic system. They just want to extract. They support democracy, and they want the state to control and enslave everyone so that they can feel safe. It's like they don't want to make any decisions for themselves. They're just toddlers. They're just perpetual children who need the state to babysit everybody. None of us can be free because these people are too incompetent to have any agency over their own lives. They beg the state to control them. And I know you live in Canada, but I think
actually it is 8.5 billion. It's projected to get to, what is it, 12 billion by 2050. So yeah, we do have a population problem, especially in the developed countries.
I think Canada is just as authoritarian as America. I'm sorry.
In your subjective opinion, right? So, like for instance, you might think that all of this is bad, but like, what if I told you that certain areas being colonized, the colonialism was a horrible thing, right? In some aspects, also benefited those countries that were colonized because they got access to more resources and advancements in medicine and technology. Like, you seem to just be selectively picking the bad aspects of.
She's not addressing the root cause. She's still making appeal to necessity. She's assuming that humans have to exist when they don't. So the only way you can argue that civilization benefits those people, and because they're getting medical care, what you're basically saying is it's mitigating their suffering, which did not have to exist in the first place. So you can, I don't agree with this, by the way, but if you agree that they're better off with civilization, fine. But you're not comparing them. You're basically making a comparison between a civilized man and an uncivilized man. You're not comparing them to someone who doesn't exist. If they don't exist, then there is no need for civilization. There is no need for medical care.
Human flourishing and contribution, and for that one aspect, you like just think that it's all, so we could just burn it all to hell, right?
No, I don't.
Yes, burn this shit down to the ground.
At all. I think that civilization has done nothing but keep these countries in perpetual debt. They have been forced into this centralized banking system in which they can never pay the debt. They have to sell their raw materials and their labor in order to pay the debt. And we offshore our inflation by manipulating the exchange rate. So in order for us to maintain our high quality of life, they have to suffer. And we get these raw materials and these goods, the materials that we use in our cell phones, the metals, the gold, the silver, the diamonds, all being extracted from the third world. And meanwhile, even though they are rich in natural resources, they're the ones who are in poverty, even though we have a service-oriented economy in which we produce very little. So it does not benefit them. This is a whole scam. This is a whole bait and switch where we act like we're giving generosity to the third world because we're giving them paper money. No, they were doing fine. They were living off the land. And then we came and disrupted their way of life with our bullshit with our civilization. I think I would have been much happier if I was born in a third world and I wasn't controlled by the state. At least those people actually own their lives. At least they're not controlled by the state.
So people can't live off the grid? People don't do that at all?
Not living off the grid is not the same as sovereignty. It doesn't get, every piece of land has been monopolized by the state. There is no place on the planet that isn't owned by a state.
Not well, but even if you live off the grid, that still is under the state. There's no place on earth that hasn't been monopolized by the state.
Really? What about the islands where there's tribes that literally live without any kind of government interference?
Those islands are still territories of some state. I tried to find a place on this planet that isn't owned by a state, and there is none.
Have you heard of the island of Papua New Guinea?
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because I need to be doing a live stream. Perdon said that property is theft. Really, he's talking about real property or capitalism. What I'm going to argue is that procreation is theft, that you're actually stealing a person who did not consent. I really need to develop these arguments before I lay it out. But yes, I believe procreation is theft.
I'm pretty sure that is under a state. I don't know but I just don't think there is one.
Have you heard of the Simbari tribe in Papua New Guinea?
Even if what you're saying is true, that doesn't negate my point. The bottom line is that I didn't choose any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an alternative where I can go live on some remote island. I shouldn't have to choose between one bad option and another. And moreover, I have not been given I've been deprived of the basic survival skills that I should have, because I was raised in a civilized society. I don't have the hunting and survival skills and the ability to build. Of course, I could learn it, but it's a learning curve, and the risk is too great. I don't know these people. For me to just pick up and go to some island where I don't know anybody, I don't speak their language, I don't have a good. I would be okay. I know that's your preferred option. I would prefer my option, which would be
Sorry, how do you know that's my preferred option?
Because that's what you suggested. I mean, you didn't even address the medical assistance in dying argument that I presented. That would be my option.
Oh, do you want to talk about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great. Why should we support MAID when they're currently advocating for it to be expanded to people with mental health issues where they literally lack faculties to make a decision on ending their life?
Well, I don't want to legalize it. I want to decriminalize it because I think it's a natural right. And I don't think the state has any legitimate authority to criminalize it in the first place. We're not slaves. I'm not sure how the Constitution works in your country, but in America, we have a constitution of delegated authority. The people themselves are supposed to be sovereign, and the cornerstone of freedom is self-ownership. If you don't own your life, then you're a slave.
So who should be allowed to end their life? And it's already legal in Canada. Who should be allowed to end their life?
Why does she keep using the word allow? This is a hardcore status. An anarchist would not use this type of language. It's the state that is being allowed to run amok. We allow the state. The state does not allow us.
Life.
I think the way you're framing the question.
Anyone?
I guess the correct way to phrase it: who does the state have legitimate authority to force to exist against their will? Because
you said that this isn't about the state. You said everybody should have a right to end their lives. So is that everybody? Everybody?
It's a natural right. It exists under natural law, which the state is violating by criminalizing it. The state has no legitimate authority to criminalize it in the first place.
Proof.
I don't know. What was my goal? I really wanted to debate her on medical assistance in dying, because I thought people could actually benefit from that argument more. Because that's my next project, and I thought I could get some promotion out that. But I compromised with debating should people procreate. This wasn't my original debate topic. But I did try to pivot and work that into the conversation. So I don't know what I gained from this. I guess there are more people now who know about antinatalism who probably haven't heard it before. I don't know. Maybe somebody else will listen. Maybe I don't know. hopefully I'll get more networking, and maybe I'll work my way in these conservative circles, and then I can work my way up to debate other people. I don't know. I don't think debates on anti-natalism are really that helpful. But when it comes to public policy, when it comes to debating, should we have the right to medical assistance? Yes, I do think it's helpful, especially for the plan that I'm trying to implement.
Prove to me
It's
that
not in our Constitution.
Okay, prove to me. Sorry, finish your point, and then let me know when I can.
The way that our structure works is that the state has general police powers. It doesn't actually have to source its authority. It just basically has unlimited. The state is sovereign, and people are not, and so basically the state can do whatever it wants. That's not the way it was. I went over the Declaration of Independence. America actually was rejecting the sovereign doctrine of the British, that the people were.
Hello, brother Marcus. Long time no hear, long time no see.
Supposed to be sovereign, not the king or not the state, and yet we have sort of went right back to where we started. We don't even own our lives. Let me ask you a question. Do you think?
By the way, y'all, I'm thinking seriously about creating my own Gnostic church, my own ministry. It's not going to be a traditional type of church, but if anybody's interested in that, because I'm going to be doing these contemporaneously. I'm going to be following my nonprofit to lobby for the initiative that I'm proposing, and then I'm going to be doing a Gnostic ministry, which I don't want to give it away because I do have haters. I do have people that are listening who do not have good intentions. So some of the things that I'm planning on doing, I don't want to discuss it publicly. But if you're interested in being a part of my Gnostic ministry, then you can email me at the antinatalistinformant@gmail.com.
Just
that we actually own our lives.
This is okay. This is just, you're going to answer my question first, and then I'll answer your question.
What was your question?
I'll make sure everybody's respectful. Just push through. Good.
Who should be allowed to off themselves?
I don't think anybody should be allowed. I think it is a
Well, Sheffrin is one of the sources that I gave her in reference, and I don't think she read it. I don't think she read any of this. I read all of her sources, by the way. I don't think she read any of mine.
Natural right, and the state does not have a legitimate authority to stop anyone from doing it. So it's not a question of being allowed. The state should not have the power to stop someone from doing it.
So what about force? What about force doctrine? Is there not an enforcement arm of the government? Are we not bound by laws if we live in society?
I don't know what I'm trying to figure out what kind of logical fallacy she's making, but I'm just getting all kinds of like my spotty senses are just going off. My anarchist spotty senses are just going crazy right now. She's just assuming that the state has infinite authority. She doesn't care about consent. Basically, the state can do whatever it wants. She's not referencing the Constitution. She's not referencing anything. She's just saying the state has enforcement authority of what? So these laws are basically self-authenticating, advocating. I don't know how. It's like, no, the original source of the law, at least in America, we have a constitution that is supposed to be based on consent, delegated authority from the people to the state for specific purposes. The state does not have general police powers. I don't know how the Canadian legal system works, but they're under the crown. The king, I didn't know this shit about Canada. They're still basically a colony of Britain. I'm not the expert on Canadian law, so I can't speak to it. But if the king is sovereign, then basically Canadians don't have any natural rights. I mean, they should, but their whole system is completely fucked up. In America, we do have natural rights based on the way our Constitution is structured. I mean, everybody should have natural rights, but I'm talking about the framing of the Constitution itself. Their legal system is framed differently. The way their Constitution is framed is really based on common law and other bullshit. You know, the British don't even have a codified constitution. I don't know. I haven't studied. I studied the British legal system more than I've studied Canadian law. I don't know anything about Canada. But if they're under the Commonwealth, then it's basically the same system.
Right, but did we consent to live in? We didn't consent to that. So that's where you have to start. That we were.
Okay.
Life was imposed. John
Locke, social contract theory, right?
No. You mean Rousseau. You mean Rousseau. That's the social contract was Rousseau.
There's
but I'm glad you brought up
philosophers.
John Locke. What John Locke actually said is that by the way, John Locke was against self-deletion, but not for the reason that you're saying. He believed that we have a duty to God to maintain our lives, but it wasn't a duty to the state. And what's the other guy's name? Can't think of the guy.
I was thinking of David Hume, but for whatever reason, I was drawing a blank because I stayed up studying all of her sources, which we never even addressed. But again, she didn't read any of mine.
The one who wrote, I'll look it up while you're talking.
Right. So you're saying that natural law is incompatible with civil law, and to that I say, who the fuck cares? Like, ultimately, we live in a society that is governed by laws and branches of government, including the enforcement mechanism of the state. And
what is the source of the state's authority? That's the part that she never addressed. She's just saying we have laws, but there has to be some enabling act. That's in America. You have to have some type of enabling authority. Where is the enabling authority for these laws? Especially when it comes to criminalizing medical assistance denied. They can't source it to anything. It's not in the Constitution. It's just that basically the state has general police powers, and that is illegitimate.
If you don't like that, I mean, like I said, there's a little island, right? You can go live with the tribe there. It's called the Simbari tribe. And I think you'd find what they do on that island.
If y'all listen to my introduction, I told you she was going to do that. I told you she was going to make appeals to necessity. She was going to say, if you don't like it, you can just leave. Let me just remind you that this is someone who is pro-life. This is someone who wants to subject you to state tyranny. And then your solution is to just go leave and go live on some island. So they're making it seem like I'm the one who should, because I'm not going to play the question and answer session after the fact, but they were trying to make it seem like I'm the one who should be taken seriously. No, she's saying that if you don't like the system under which you were born, you should just go live on some island where you have no survival skills, where you don't know anybody. This should not be taken seriously at all, at face value.
Island, very interesting.
Okay, the person I was trying to think of, the philosopher, is David Hume. David Hume had a competing theory against Locke, that basically we do have a natural right, and it is a right that is given to us by God because only human beings have the ability to do that. Is a natural ability, and therefore the state does not have legitimate authority to interfere. So
you believe in God? Do you believe in God?
Not the way that God has been used colloquially. I don't believe it is an actual deity, a man in the sky. I consider myself a Gnostic, so it's not a literal God the way that most people use that word.
Okay, just curious. What was your question for me?
Do you believe that we actually own our lives?
Insofar as what? Financially, in being, and
she never actually answered this question. But under natural law, there is a principle of self-ownership. You have a property interest in your own life. And so when a state engages in a regulatory taking of your life, when a state proscribes your use or your disposal of your own life, that is a regulatory taking. And if the state were to recognize the property interest that you have in your life, then the state would actually have to compensate you for forcing you to exist against your will. But again, she never answered. She never, and this is an attorney. I'm asking her legally, do you think we own our lives? I never got a direct answer from her.
In essence, what capacity?
Okay, well, I don't know if you're familiar with John Locke, because you did cite him, but John Locke was a proponent of self-ownership. He said that he basically explained that our lives exist in three domains: the right to the person, the state, and liberty. And I don't know how the Supreme or how the legal structure is in your country. I can only explain how it works in America, that our Supreme Court has bifurcated, a liberty interest versus a property interest, because they were using Rousseau's social contract theory as opposed to Locke, even though the founding documents are based on Locke. So if you don't have, the way that they frame it is that any liberty interest has to be balanced against a competing state interest, and the state always wins. So and the state has sovereignty. So you lose every time. I don't know if you've ever tried to sue the state. It's nearly impossible, even when the state has actually violated your rights. Even when the state has destroyed your property or done something completely egregious, even when the state has deleted somebody, they will claim, oh, he had a reasonable belief that you had a gun. So qualified immunity, he acted in good faith. He didn't violate clearly established law. It's so arbitrary. It's just, if you can't sue the state to enforce your rights, then you basically don't have any rights.
You literally can.
I'm sorry?
You literally can. There's like hundreds of thousands of Supreme Court decisions out there where somebody has successfully appealed and won against the state. Literally.
Well, that's the whole clearly established law. And it has to violate a law where there's actual case precedent with identical circumstances to your circumstances. If it's some variation,
well, I wasn't sure if I should have went through with, but we had already discussed this weeks ago, and I mean, I don't like a debate where it's just like if you want to debate, let's have it right now, right? But I kind of lost interest in it because it was so long ago when we talked about it. But I just thought, well, if nobody gets anything out of this, at least my subscribers will hopefully get something out of it. I've never actually confronted a breeder directly. I don't know if Witchy is here. Witchy is probably on it, but Witchy actually she read my book. She actually understands it. And I did debate people on D&W's channel, but this is my first one-on-one debate with an actual breeder. Well, she doesn't have any children yet, but she wants to have children. I don't know. At the end of the day, it is content. I don't know that it changed anybody's minds, but I guess more than anything, I want to be challenged. I would like for somebody to actually prove me wrong. That clearly didn't happen here. I don't think she even addressed my points at all. But I wanted to see how she would respond to the consent arguments, and I don't think she responded at all.
Even slightly, it's going to be dismissed. Even if it actually violates.
Not true.
I'm talking about in America. I don't know how.
I know it's the same. There's a factual nexus and a legal nexus.
Let me be even more specific. It's not just America, because we do have different circuits within the courts of appeals. In my circuit specifically, it is very conservative. So that circuit will always side with the state. any law that may be protecting your rights, it's going to come from the Supreme Court, but it's not going to come from the Court of Appeals. That this Court of Appeals does not do anything, and so I think I live in the worst circuit in America, the most conservative circuit that does not protect your rights at all.
That we typically rely upon in terms of precedent in the legal system. And so when we're talking about a factual nexus, I think that's more so along the lines of what you're thinking, that the facts of the case are the same. And therefore, that's why the precedent is persuasive to the court in reaching its decision. But if we're talking about a legal nexus, it can be something as simple as the legal.
No, I was telling her the exceptions to qualified immunity. You have to show that the state actor did not act in good faith, and you have to show that they violated clearly established law. That is the requirement to get around qualified immunity. It's nearly difficult to circumvent qualified immunity, especially because you can't get discovery. Qualified immunity is not only immunity from damages, it's also immunity from suit. So they don't have to prove anything. All they have to do is file a motion to dismiss or a plea to the jurisdiction. You don't get discovery to get evidence to show that they did act in bad faith. It's nearly impossible. You would need a big law firm with a whole lot of resources to do their own investigation, because you're not going to get any discovery.
Legal test that was defined in the precedent-setting case is applicable to the new case.
Okay,
so there's two
what
nexuses.
So what is the legal
everywhere.
standard for? Do you have qualified immunity in your where you are? And if you do,
yeah, it's named something
what's the
different.
standard?
It's named something different. It's under the criminal code. I looked it up the other day. If you don't mind, I can take a second, bring it back up.
Because
thank you for that. Living off the grid is not sovereignty. I'm not sure why people keep doing this. I'm not sure why they keep straw manning me and making these ridiculous art. It is not what I'm talking about. The state, you still have to pay taxes. You still are subjected to laws that you did not consent to. At best, yes, you can live in an unincorporated municipality. All that means is that you have no local government. It does not mean that you are free from the state.
America, well, if you sue, first of all, if you sue certain state actors, they have absolute immunity. If you sue the president, the governor, if you sue a judge, they have absolute
25, 25.1 to 25.4 of the criminal code. Officers are protected from criminal liability for actions taken during their duties if they act on reasonable grounds, and their actions are authorized by law.
What
and
about
I'm still
civil
waiting
liability?
for an answer.
What about civil liability?
Sorry, we're talking about qualified immunity. What in what capacity are you saying?
But
See, I don't know. Again, we're not talking about the same thing, because in America, qualified immunity is a defense to civil liability. I don't think there is qualified immunity for criminal liability. Like, everybody is subjected to criminal prosecution. I don't know what she's talking about, because I don't know anything about Canadian law. But we're clearly not talking about the same thing.
When you sue a state actor under 42 USC 1983, their defense is qualified immunity. Maybe we need to get away from this, because our legals.
You still haven't. Yes. I asked you a very clear question. I said, you said if I own.
And I asked her, do we own our lives? She never answered my question. I answered all of her questions, but she never answered any of mine.
My life, right? And I asked you in what capacity or context, and you still haven't answered me.
Okay, let me answer it. Well, I can answer it easily.
I told her, I gave her the 3 domains: the person, the state, and liberty. If they have to be balanced against state interests, then it's not self-ownership.
Actually, first of all, your rights have to be balanced against the state's competing interests. And there's 3 standards. There's strict scrutiny, intermediate, and rational basis. Most state actions are going to be analyzed under rational basis. And so as long as the state has any rational basis for what it did, then it's going to be upheld.
That's not an answer.
Okay, what I'm basically saying is that you don't have any rights. You don't have any right to your life, liberty, or your property. That the state can, in my case, this city literally destroyed my fence because they own a lot next to my fence and they were negligent and their tree fell and destroyed it. If I were to sue anybody else, they would be held liable. But because it's the city, which I didn't even know that the city has sovereign immunity because the city is not sovereign. But they claim sovereign immunity because based on the home rule, I don't know, it's based on a delegated state authority. So they get to destroy my fence. I can't sue them. I have experienced so many injustices, so many, and you can't fight it because they always claim immunity. I have one. Let me not talk about myself because I don't want to.
Yeah, it's going to the Justin Timberlake song. It's kind of turned into that right now.
Cry Me a River.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to address some of this at the end.
But I don't mean to be solipsistic, but I don't think.
Okay, so it's Cry Me a River when you talk about your personal hardships. But no, I think it's Cry Me a River for the state. When the state needs more labor, the state needs more slaves. So she has more empathy for the state than she does for flesh and blood human beings.
That my experience is atypical. I think most people have experienced injustice. They just don't think about it. They get the ticket, they just pay it, or the police officer harasses them. They just accept it as a normal part of their life. They don't see it as oppression. The fact that you have to get an occupational license just to.
Right, and that's why I think I want to start my whole ministry, but it's not going to be a traditional church. I have this all figured out. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. I figured out exactly what I want to do.
Just to maintain your livelihood. You can't even work without permission from the state. That's what I'm talking about. You don't actually own your life. Because you don't have any natural rights. They're operating based on Rousseau's social contract theory, which is the general will. The general will says that the state has unlimited authority. You don't have any rights independent of the state, and the state can literally do whatever it wants so long as it serves the general will. You as an individual are expendable. Your rights are expendable, and who cares so long as it serves the greater good. And so they will always talk about the state's interests, the greater good, the public. These are nebulous terms. They don't benefit anybody. The public is just a collection of individuals. If you're not protecting the individual, then you're not protecting the public.
Okay, so are you asking me, or are you trying to convince me? Because I thought you were asking me if I had ownership over a certain capacity in my life.
I still didn't. I don't know if you think that we own our life, but I don't think we do. But let me just tell you the framework in my book. My book is based on a disposal rights test. That what you own under property law, if you own something, then you have the right to dispose it. So my test, which is the disposal rights test, proves this positively that you don't own your life because you don't have the right to dispose it. The state has the superior disposal rights. The state can terminate your life, but you can't terminate your own life. The state can destroy your property, but it regulates your property. So even when it comes to your property, you don't really own it. You just basically have a right to exclude. The state has superior. The state owns your life in every domain, over your person, your liberty, and your property. Everything is based on getting state permission. You're just a perpetual slave. You never really get emancipated, even at the age of 18. You're supposed to be an adult. You're just a perpetual child who has to beg the state for permission just to exist. Humans are the only let me be more specific. The civilized human is the only animal on the planet that has to pay just to exist.
Okay, do we get anything in return for that payment?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe you do, because I think based on your argument.
Okay, for those who are in the audience right now, do you get anything in return? What do you get for this shit? Unless you're on welfare, which I think is smart. I'm not going to shame the fair queens. Well, I'll shame them to the extent that they have children. But if you're just a single person who's getting food stamps and you have a disability, you're on SSI, kudos to you. You have figured out how to make the system work for you instead of you working for the system. You're smarter than the rest of us, and you should be applauded.
Is about the population decline. I'm willing to bet that you're a statist and you actually support the state and you want the state to continue. So you and I don't. Okay, let's not make this personal.
Well, let me provide you with my, just so you don't gish gallop again. So you have a way of like trailing off, and then we lose the original point entirely. So I think that, right, there is some benefit. Like, is it annoying to pay taxes? Absolutely. Do I, like when we had the, the C-19 stuff, was that annoying? And like, was that a bit oppressive? Sure. But guess what?
I told her, wait a minute. She said that I'm just veering all over the place. No, I told her I don't think that I benefit. I don't think the price that I pay is justified. The extraction, the submission, the subjection to illegitimate laws it doesn't balance out. So no, I don't think that I get anything out of it. I think the state extracts far more from me than I benefit from the state. I think that without the state, I could actually fare well on my own. I could probably hire private security. I could probably defend myself because the police are unresponsive. I think I would be better off shooting the criminals that have violated me instead of waiting to get justice from an unresponsive legal system.
What? I can go outside and I can be safe. I don't have to worry about being injured or hurt or anything by another human. I have access to clean water. I have access to like nice food.
Unless you're Renee Good, who got shot in the face by some ICE agent, and then of course he gets qualified immunity. But of course she doesn't care about that.
I live in.
Oh wait, by the way, she did bring that up. She did bring it up, and she made a joke basically saying that it was her fault.
Area that's highly walkable. My employer gives me great benefits, and you might say like, okay, these are all like little hardships. But if you were to ask me, hey, would you like turn back the clock right now and just not be alive, or would you like go through these hardships? I'd be like, I'd rather go through these hardships because at least I would have been alive.
Because her happiness comes at other people's expense. I don't know how many people have to suffer in order for her to be happy, in order for her to extract whatever money she has. Like, yeah, there's probably countless victims of people. I don't know anybody who's happy, who enjoys life, who has not caused misery to other people. They don't generate their own happiness. Their happiness comes at other people's expense.
If you don't live, then there's no good that comes from it. It's like an unaliving sentence in and of itself, to put it quite bluntly, because there can be no good. You say there can only be suffering, but there can also be no good. It's self-defeating as a logical entailment.
So do you think that the continuation of life is always justified under all circumstances? Like, for example, what if you were a chattel slave, or what if you were in the Holocaust just wasting away? Do you think that is worth a life worth continuing?
That's an interesting question. I actually recently saw a YouTube video of an individual that was talking about slavery, and this child slavery, specifically in the United States of America. This individual was a black man, and he said, you know what? It was horrible what my ancestors went through, and like the generational trauma is awful. But if that wouldn't have happened, we would still be in Africa in like this village, and the conditions in that village are pretty horrible. And in America, I have access to, like all of these like economic opportunities and the first world country elements and resources that we often take for granted. So it's funny how you seem to take the negative on things, and there actually can be a positive from something that's even very traumatic.
let's shift a little bit to your argument.
Well,
about
you don't want to like deal with that.
I
Is it,
can
you're just going
address
to
that.
concede?
I think that you're creating a false dichotomy where you have to live in a civilized society or you have to live in a third world. I don't think you have to exist at all. So
When
I don't
did I
think
say that? It's total straw man.
Well,
dude.
no, you said that this.
How is that a straw man? She literally was comparing all the privileges that we get by living in a civilized society as opposed to living in a third world. So she's creating a false dichotomy that it has to be either or. You don't have to exist at all. That's my point.
Black person was grateful for slavery because at least he doesn't have to live in some impoverished country in Africa. So I'm saying he didn't have to exist at all. So why are we comparing two states of existence? There is a third option.
Yeah, the option where there's no good at all. There's just nothing.
But I don't think that, okay, but
she just proved my point that suffering is the baseline. Because every good that she's talking about is always in comparison to a worse state. She's comparing how things could be worse. So she's already conceding my point. She doesn't even realize it. That suffering is the baseline. That without her civilization, without her bullshit medical technology, we would be experiencing perpetual suffering.
I'm not talking about him. Would you like to be a Holocaust victim who's starving and skeletal and being abused, or would you like to be whipped and not have any rights and you're picking cotton in the hot sun? Would you like that? I'm just trying to figure out your barometer for what quality life is, or a bare life, because you seem to espouse a position of a bare life that as long as you're alive, then you should be grateful.
So that's the wrong question to ask. What you should be asking is, would I be fine going through that, or would I prefer to not live? Because that's your position. Would you like to rephrase your question?
I mean, if you want to answer that, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because the other question's stupid. It's like, obviously nobody wants to go through those things. But if it was between going through those things and not even having the opportunity to exist and to survive the Holocaust and to survive chattel slavery and to go on and build something and have kids and, be...
So she's okay with a bare life. As long as she's alive, it doesn't matter how much suffering she experiences, she would rather be alive. And that's fine if she wants to make that choice, but she can't make that choice for somebody else.
Fruitful and have love and a purpose in life, then obviously I would rather go through those things. None of those things, as horrible as they are infinite. They are a finite experience that you experience for a portion of your life, and then you have all of this other potential, right?
What are you talking about? The people who were born as chattel slaves lived their entire lives as slaves. The people who were in the Holocaust, that was not a temporary experience. They became emaciated. They were there for, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then they just died. So, yeah, their lives didn't serve a purpose. They just ended up in some pit. Now we have photos. Now we have these museums dedicated. It's almost like she would justify any atrocity so long as humans continue to exist. This is a slave to the will to life. This is someone who really lacks any basic empathy. And I'm sorry, I think most Christians think this way because they have no autonomy. They just think that their decisions are inconsequential and that basically God take the wheel. It ain't my fault, like Master P used to say. No personal responsibility. And the irony is that she's the one who's supposed to be conservative. The conservatives are so big on personal responsibility, yet they take no personal responsibility when they impose life onto non-consenting human beings.
Right? There's always something that you can look back on and say, hey, you know what? This sucked, but I'm really glad it happened because of this, right? I injured my back super bad a couple years ago, but guess what? That meant I was at home more. I started watching debates. I got into debating. I got back and I found orthodoxy, right? I got back into the church. I was a Protestant for years, right? So this horrible thing.
I don't listen to his channel. Every now and then I will like go check it out or whatever, because whatever. And then for whatever reason, and it's so random, I will randomly go to his channel when they're doing a live stream, and for whatever reason, they're still talking. I haven't been on his channel in months. So why would they be roasting me when I haven't been on his channel? I don't get it. Other than the fact that, well, when I tell the truth, people say that I'm being narcissistic. So maybe I shouldn't say what I'm actually thinking, but it is demonstrably true. You know, I'm going to take the bait. I'm just going to throw some shade. That I was the most interesting thing on his damn channel. And so now he's lamenting the fact that I haven't been on there. I don't know why my name keeps coming up, because there's nothing like the real thing. Talking about me is not the same thing as actually having me on there. I don't think the new people who are coming to this channel even know who the hell I am. So, keep talking about me. I guess you're probably sending people over to my channel so they can figure out who is this mysterious person that everybody keeps talking about. I don't get it. My channel is so small and insignificant. Why do they keep talking about me? I don't get it. I seem to have this effect where people just can't let go. They just want to tether themselves and build their channel off me. I don't get it. I don't understand. Because I don't think it is effective. And just for shits and giggles, what were they talking about? I'm not, you know what? I don't even know that I care, but if you because I'm not going to go back and listen, but if you feel compelled, you can tell me what they were talking about. But are we going to have to do roasting sessions again where we do this back and forth where he roasts me and I roast him? Like, I thought we were done with that. I thought we decided to let bygones be bygones. But the sad part is that he loses when we do that shit. Like, oh gosh, let me stop. Let me stop. I'm just not interested in doing that shit anymore. Let me keep playing, and I'll go through these comments.
Right, this whole back injury got me to that. And when C19 happened, I didn't have a regular phone call scheduled with my dad, and we started that in 2020, and now we do that every week. And it's one of the most rewarding parts of my week is just getting to talk to my father, the man who made me without my consent, because I love him and I find him to be a great resource and a source of joy in my life.
I'm glad you brought that up because you are Christian.
That's my
this is what I gather from listening to your channel. I just want to tell you what led me to procreation even before I knew about antinatalism was Christianity. I did read about the last days, and I read the story of Job and Jeremiah where they lamented being brought into existence. And so at the age of 13, I did come to the realization that procreation was unethical. And my father tried to convince me to give him grandchildren, and I refused. What I told my father is that I wouldn't wish life on my worst enemy. And he tried to convince me even when he was on his deathbed. And I absolutely refused. Do you think as a Christian...
Are you even married? Like, can you even... Like, if you wanted to have kids, could you even have kids?
Well, no, but he was trying to convince me. He was trying to I had this friend from high school who was trying to push me off on, and anyway, I don't need to get into that. But suffice to say, I am homosexual and I am sterilized and I am never going to have children. Now,
did you sterilize yourself?
Well, no, I had a doctor do that.
I know, but I mean, like, you chose to sterilize yourself, right?
Oh,
You got
yeah,
a vasectomy.
Absolutely.
Well,
Now, what I wanted to ask
it's
you as a Christian,
it's so weird you could do that if the state owns you, right? It's so weird. It's like, you don't even know how that happened. You must have like done it like top secret, you know, James Bond style, like snuck in, got back alley, you know, vasectomist. Like,
well,
if you
I'm
say
not enslaving anyone to the state, so I'm not getting the state. So what my philosophy calls for is the dismantling of the state through abstention from procreation. But okay,
also, why did you get sterilized if you're having sex with only men? Like, you can't reproduce with a man, right? You understand that?
because I don't have credibility to tell other people to get sterilized unless I do it myself. I went through that experience, and
Oh,
I don't
Is
want.
She's telling me that I'm veering off on these tangents, and yet she's making these sidebars, and then we're going off onto. I'm like, and then I actually forget what I wanted to say because I'm answering her questions, but she didn't answer any of my questions.
To get to let me,
no,
just
you're right. I
quickly.
don't want to like nitpick through your personal shit.
No.
But do you
Let me
believe
just
that
tell
you
the
need to
reason
go?
why. I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because my best friend from high school tried to seduce me. She crawled in bed naked, trying to get me to impregnate her. And so after that, I'm like, okay, I want to make absolutely certain that I don't have any children. So,
well, that's one thing we can agree on. Bitches be crazy, am I right? But look, can I ask you something? You really believe that you have to go through something to have an opinion on it?
Well, I don't think that I can speak because people.
Why was this so compelling that the point that I made was far more salient on what we were talking about, and then I completely forgot what I was going to say.
People make it seem like it's so horrible, like you're getting castrated. I don't really want to. I don't really want to stick on that because we're running out of time. And
no,
I want to ask you,
know why you think that you have to do something to have an opinion on it, because like
40 minute warning.
That would defeat this whole purpose. This would defeat the whole purpose of the debate, because if you honestly believe that you would have had to like pretty much stop human beings from procreating in order to have an opinion on making human beings stop procreating, then you wouldn't even have a leg to stand on in this debate.
No, but I think there's a layer to it also, the fact that I am homosexual, that a lot of them do just, even within the anti-natalist community, it's just like, oh, well, you're gay, so what do you have to say about this? Like, no, I'm still a man, I still have a penis, and I still did it. So if I can do it, I'm not sure what your excuse is. I'm not sure what your excuse is for. I don't really want to, because okay, there's things that happen in the anti-natalist community which I don't really want to. I'll just quickly say it. A lot of them will be reckless with women, ejaculate in them, and then blame the woman for getting pregnant. And so, anyway, let's move on, because I want to ask you a question about you as a Christian. Do you think the risk of your potential child dying and going to hell is justified? Because I know you think that Jesus saves souls, but would they need to be saved if they were never brought into existence in the first place?
So I think you fundamentally misunderstand the concept of salvation and divine interpretation. So only Jesus can decide that. If you're asking me if it would be better if I aborted my child if I was pregnant, or just never had children just because I was worried that they wouldn't enjoy the kingdom of heaven, I think that's kind of a ridiculous argument. And here's why. Everyone, nobody can predict what will happen with the soul throughout the course of its life, right? And only Jesus can decide whether or not that soul has salvation. Now, if the soul lives and it does, it is granted eternal life and the kingdom of heaven through Jesus, then that, we're told as Christians, is one of the most rewarding things. It's literally even better than what we've enjoyed in this earthly life. So if I was a parent,
so basically, it's worth. I mean, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in what she believes, but according to her belief system, it's worth taking the gamble that your potential child could spend an eternity in a lake of fire because they also might have the potential to live in the sky with Jesus. Right. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Of a child who I'm raising, if I have a kid, obviously they'd be raised Orthodox, right? I'm going to give them all the tools that they need to reach salvation and salvificness. And if for some reason they, were successful in that, then that would be the greatest reward. So why would I want to deprive my child of the greatest reward by just not having them or aborting them worse?
The Bible says narrow is the kingdom, narrow is the path to the kingdom of God, and few will find it. So the Bible is explicitly saying that most people will not go to heaven. In fact, according to the Bible, most people are going to hell. So there's a high probability that everyone, but most people, you and your child, I don't believe in.
See, this actually pisses me off. I mean, they can say whatever they want to say, but I don't like when he uses my likeness, because what he's trying to do is make sure that he's trying to make sure that I can't get a job. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to defame my name. And so he's taking these low blows. He's already tagged me to the FBI. And then when I do copyright strikes, because he's not playing fair, but he thinks that I should play fair. That's not how that works. If you go low, I'm going to go low too. And if I had the intellectual property rights over Ephilism, that channel would no longer exist. But the person who does have the intellectual property rights has chosen not to do anything. So it is what it is. I wish I had the power to put him out of commission, but I don't. So that's all he does is harass. He doesn't contribute anything. That's fine. He's butthurt because of those copyright strikes. And of course, he's always the victim. I don't even bring his name up. I don't even talk about him. But gosh, this person is so annoying. I don't even know why he's still in this space. He contributes absolutely nothing.
In hell, by the way. So I'm not saying anything to be disrespectful.
Interesting.
But there's a good likelihood, if hell is real, that you and I are both going to hell.
Oh, really? You have the ability to make that salvific claim about me? You don't even really know me.
That's according to the Bible. The Bible said that most people are going to hell.
Okay, and when was the last time you reviewed that specific passage of the Bible with your spiritual father?
Not with my spirit. Again, I'm a Gnostic.
Do you have a spiritual? You don't have a spiritual father, right?
Do you know about Gnosticism? We don't believe that God is what.
I know. I'm asking you obvious questions
there is no spiritual father. God is not my father. God is an energy force that is already inside of me.
So you reached this determination subjectively. You read a portion of the Bible and you've made your own assumption about it, and you think that now because the Bible said it and the way that you've interpreted it is such that it must be true. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe it's literal. I believe the Bible is allegorical. So
okay, then how can you then that's a moot point then. You're like, I read this thing in the Bible and like I think it's this, but then you're like, well, you think the Bible is allegorical.
It still has a philosophical undertone. It still teaches you something about life. I mean, if you want to discard it,
you're making a determining statement. You're saying I read the Bible, ABG, and ergo, right? I can reach this conclusion. Most people aren't going to heaven. You made a determinative statement based on the passage.
No, I don't believe in it literally, but I'm telling you what the Bible says. I used to be Christian, so I'm very familiar with what it says. Unfortunately, the studies show that the atheists and the agnostics know more about the Bible than actual Christians because they're just faith-oriented. They just believe, they just pray. They don't actually study. So Christians are the least knowledgeable about their own religion.
Right?
No, but I don't believe in it, though. What I'm trying to appeal to.
Well, then it doesn't mean anything. It
doesn't mean anything to me, nothing. But it does mean something to you. So I'm using your arguments against you that you believe in this book, and so I'm going to.
How do you know what I believe?
because you're a Christian, and that's what I mean.
Are all
by
forms
de-
of Christianity the same?
by definition,
I don't know why she's playing this game. I listened to her channel. I've listened to her other debates. She's just said that she's an Orthodox Christian. So what is this bullshit right here? We all know what it means to be Christian. I don't get what she was doing right here. I don't.
I mean, you believe in a Bible. I mean,
By
I'm
what
not-
definition? What's the definition?
by the definition of calling yourself a Christian. I mean, let's not play games, because I've listened to your channel and I
Because
know
you can't until
I-
you can't
you
until
do
this argument
believe
because you have
in the
no
Bible. You do believe in a Bible, and you are a traditional Christian.
Bibles exist. I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm not sola scriptura. I don't believe that the Bible is like what the Bible says is the absolute be all end all. I believe in the Bible in combination with the teachings of my spiritual father and the church. The church existed before the Bible. Jesus tells us this. And so why on earth would I just like take the Bible and be like, this is all word for word. This is what's the truth, right? It's a tool.
All right. I don't
You
want
don't
to
know
for that.
Yeah,
But
of course.
do you
'cause
think?
can't. It's fine.
What if
It is a reward. Yes, you rewarded yourself with another human being. Procreation is just as rewarding as slavery. They needed slaves, so they rewarded themselves with human beings to serve their interests. Yes, it's a reward that came at somebody else's expense. It's a reward that the other person did not consent to give. So yes, procreation is very rewarding.
about May? Do you support the right to medical assistance? And I'm not saying like
No.
a legal right. I'm talking about a natural right. Do you support
No.
that the right? Why?
That's a perversion of God's wishes.
So do you believe in free will?
So they always talk about how dangerous Sharia law is. They don't want Muslims coming in and imposing their religious views. I think that Judeo-Christian tradition is just as tyrannical and oppressive as Sharia law. I really don't see any discernible difference. I think Christians and well, you could say, Jews are a minority, but when you combine the Old Testament with the New Testament, you get the Judeo-Christian tradition. They are just as oppressive as any other religion, and yet they seem to get a free pass. Why did she get to appeal to her religion when it comes to public policy? So because she's a Christian, we should lose our rights. And of course, they always see themselves as the victim. Oh, if you don't submit to me and let me control your life, then you're infringing on my religion. This is the same argument they used on same-sex marriage. This is the same argument they used on abortion rights. So they get to dictate how you live your life because of their religious views. Maybe you should not be, maybe we should take away your ability to practice your religion because you don't know how to separate your personal religious views from public policy. Your vote is an act of violence, and you're trying to impose your will on me through democracy.
Yeah, free will is only a test to see whether or not we can follow the teachings of the church and God, right?
Well, if you're a Christian,
She doesn't actually believe in free will. She doesn't actually believe that you should be free to do whatever you want. How is free will a test when you don't even get to submit to the test because you get no free will? You don't get to decide whether you're going to be a sinner or abide by quote unquote God's law. They're going to force you to obey by their version of God's law. And so there is no free will. I do say it in this debate. I'll point it out, the comment that I made.
and why are you using the state to control people? I mean, if you really believe that Jesus has power, why don't you appeal to Jesus instead of appealing to the state? Why are you forcing people to exist against their will?
Because we still exist in an earthly society. So absolutely, I don't disagree. I think there are, divine laws and divine commands, and there's also civil commands and civil laws. And whether or not you like it, this is part of living in society. It's a trade-off that we get for the rewards that we get from society and the comforts and the reasons we get from society.
I think you're worshiping a false idol. I think the state is your God.
Prove it. Prove it.
Well, the fact that you would appeal to the state to force people to exist instead of appealing to Jesus is really all the proof that I need. Why are you trying to control people through the state? I mean, I want you to.
You're asking me if I support it. I don't have any. The fact is, I'm just one woman. Okay, 2 14-year-old boys could like BEAT the crap out of me. Okay, like, and I would have nothing to do with it.
True.
What do you mean? The average woman is significantly less powerful than like teenage boys. Do you not know this?
No,
is
but you have your own weapon. You have your own weapon, which is the state. You are a very, I'm sorry, as a statist, you are a very violent person, and you're using the state to impose your will on people because you're deploying violence. The state is inflicting violence on people.
So me preventing.
And there's the comment that I wanted to highlight. Yes, she is a very violent person. All statists are violent, but I think she's particularly more violent because she's conservative and she's very authoritarian. She wants the state to have total control, total domination, no individual rights, no free will. She basically wants her own Christian version of Sharia law.
Mentally, me preventing or saying that I will not support, for instance, because all I can really do is vote, right? Me not supporting a politician who is advocating for mentally ill people being able to unalive themselves, right? That's me forcing my will on people, and that's evil, right? Like, not allowing the crazy person.
I just love how she bypasses my argument and assumes that everybody who wants medical assistance is mentally ill.
It's an act of violence because the medical professionals who would like to provide that service, who would like to engage in a private contract, would be put in prison. They would lose their ability to earn a livelihood. And this is all done by your consent. This is what you have to understand about democracy.
Who says that they would have to go in prison? I just really want them to like seek the help that they need.
She doesn't understand the consequences of her violence, of her decision to vote. Dr. Kevorkian was actually put in prison. This is the reason why you can't trust these people with the coercive power of the vote, because they think they're just expressing a public policy preference. They don't understand that there actually is real violence behind their vote. They just think, oh, I'm just going to change the law and people will just submit. No, the law has to be enforced through violence. Yes, the men came with their guns, yanked Dr. Kevorkian out of his home, put him in a cage for 7 years. And this was all done with the public support from people like her.
Because if somebody is mentally ill, they don't have the faculties to make a decision on whether or not they should live or not live.
That is backdoor imprisonment also.
They didn't have the faculties to consent to life in the first place.
Stick someone.
What do you mean?
You're detaining someone against their will and pumping them full of drugs. That is backdoor criminalization.
I never said I was going to do that. I would actually like them to get involved in the church, and hopefully the spiritual father could talk some sense into them, because clearly if they're mentally ill, they don't have the faculties necessary to end their own life, right?
Why are you assuming that they're mentally ill?
Well, that's what MAID is allowing for.
Response to their circumstances.
Because the question that I asked you was in specific reference to MAID being available to individuals who are mentally unwell. Can you tell me how a mentally ill person can provide consent? You're very concerned about consent.
All contracts, for any contract.
Can you tell me how somebody who doesn't exist can give consent?
You have to, there has to be a meeting of the mind. You have to have the capacity to enter a contract. So I don't think a mentally ill person has the capacity to enter a contract. So
great.
By default,
well, why should we allow them to end their lives? Should we?
Sorry?
Should we allow them to end their lives if they can't enter?
I don't like
contract?
your word allow. It's not, they shouldn't.
You tone policing me?
Something. I don't think
30-minute warning.
I'm not tone policing anybody. She doesn't understand the government's role. It's like before we can even have a debate, the basics have not even been established. That the state has limited delegated authority. It does not have general police powers. So the state can't allow you to do anything. The state does not allow you to exercise your natural rights. The state is created as a social contract to protect your natural rights. It doesn't allow you to do anything. But this is somebody who is articulating a position of total enslavement where you have no rights and the state allows you to do whatever it wants you to do.
I don't think the state has any right to by the way, there are some anti-natalists who are more extreme than me who think that procreation should be against the law, or maybe there should be a license to procreate. I don't believe that. I don't believe the state should have that much power. But on the same token, I don't think the state should have any power to stop anyone from terminating their life.
Even a mentally ill person.
Well, I actually have a proposal which addresses that.
So yes, they shouldn't be able to do that.
I think standard contract principles should apply. So if you don't have the capacity to contract, then you should not have the ability to terminate your life.
Okay, so the government can interfere.
Sorry?
The government can interfere then.
No, it's very, the way I worded it is very.
So she doesn't like nuance. She wants everything to be black and white. No, the way I worded it in my proposal, it's not the government can interfere. It has to be someone who has standing, someone who actually has an interest in your life, because those are the people who are actually going to be responsible for you when they interfere and prevent you from taking your life. Well, those people are actually going to be there to help you. I don't think the state, I don't think some random asshole who doesn't even know me has any standing.
Very specific. It's not about the government interfering. It's about the loved ones. I think you should have standing. I don't think the state has standing just because it wants people to be workers. No, if you're a loved one who actually has an interest in that person, fine. But the caveat also is that if the state is going to force you to exist against your will, then the state should be forced. The state should have to pay to maintain your voluntary existence. If the state has an interest in our lives, fine. If you think that you want to protect the mentally ill, then you should have to pay to maintain their involuntary existence. It should come out of your pocket. They shouldn't have to maintain their life just because you are against it. And then I know you're probably against all.
The government already does that, though. They already support mentally, like the people are on disability.
No, I'm not. I'm sure you probably disagree, but I'm not mentally ill. And you don't
no, I mean people are, not you. There's people.
I'm saying people like her should have to pay my bills. People who don't support my rights, people who support this tyranny, it should come out of their pocket.
People that are like mentally incapable of carrying on regular lives, they're on disability. Like the government supports those people.
What I'm saying is that I don't have that right. It's against the law, and yet I'm forced to maintain my involuntary existence. So for all the people who are against it because they have an interest in my life, they should be paying my bills. They should be paying my mortgage. They should be paying my car. They should be buying me food because they have such a stake. I mean, if they have standing and they're so concerned for me, why do I have to? And if life is such a gift, why do I have to pay to maintain this gift? Because you said it was an opportunity to pay, to work, to toil, to maintain something that you never consented to in the first place.
Do you live in a decent house? Is there clean water and food when you need it?
Yes. I'm not sure.
Have you ever personally had a horrible medical thing happen that left you incapacitated?
I have been healthy for
and you live in a society where you can, stick your D where you want to, right? And nobody's like throwing you off buildings, right? Like they would in other societies, right?
No, you got that wrong. The homophobia came as a result of the state through Christianity and through organized a centralized state. There was no homophobia in these so-called primitive cultures. they actually did practice homosexuality in pre-colonial Africa. So I'm not sure why
Okay,
people
so that's
got
just
this
a
wrong.
segue.
It wasn't a
No, she's trying to give the credit to civilized society for giving gays rights. And I'm like, no, our rights didn't come from you. Actually took away our rights. You are directly responsible for all the oppression that gays have experienced. And now you're trying to have this revisionist history where the civilized people gave you your right to stick your D wherever you want. It's like, it's not true.
Western import. Homophobia is the Western import, not homosexuality.
Okay, so I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you where it came from, where the oppression came from. I'm asking you if you.
She said that if I was living in some other country, I would be thrown off a building for being gay. By implication, she's giving credit to these civilized societies for giving me gay rights.
Currently live in a society where you can have your sexual orientation and not be, subjected to like building throwing, where you can have access to clean food, clean water. You said you never had any serious medical conditions. It sounds to me like you live a pretty privileged life. In fact, I think a lot of people would be happy to have your life. Correct?
No, girl, you don't know. You're looking at like things that are surface level. If they actually knew the ins and outs of what I have, no, they would not want my life. I don't think there's many people who would trade places. I could be perfectly healthy. I still could have been abused. I still could have been subjugated. She's just looking. See, that's why these people don't support freedom, because they're only looking at shit that is surface deep. That, oh, you have running water. Oh, you have food. Yeah, you could have been abused. You could have had your rights violated. You could have been oppressed. You could have massive student loan debt. But they want you to have a bare life. As long as you're alive, as long as you're healthy, she doesn't care about whatever suffering you've actually experienced. She's only talking about those who are mentally ill, those who are terminally, those who have a terminal illness. The rest of us, I guess we should just suck it up. Like she said, cry me a river. So anything, oh God, I don't want to attack her personally. So I guess I'll just make a general statement. For all these people who don't have any empathy, then don't whine to us when shit happens to you. Don't whine to us when you're a victim of crime, when you get sexually assaulted, when you get mugged, you get shot, when you are the victim of some systemic injustice. Those are all the pitfalls that come with life. You should just accept it. You should stop whining, get over it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You should not complain about anything. You shouldn't even be complaining about me complaining, because that is his own form of whining. You're whining about me whining, and you have no right to do that, because you are the progenitor of life. And so you should have to listen to my fucking whining, because this is something that you support. You support the imposition of life. So listen to my fucking whining, suck it up, pull yourself by your fucking bootstrap, and stop acting like you're the victim.
But implicit in your question is the assertion that I got my so-called gay rights from the state or civilization.
Well, sorry. If the government changes their mind tomorrow, can we not outlaw homosexuality? Like, we can make it like it was illegal.
But that was illegitimate from the first place. The criminalization of homosexuality was illegitimate. You have a natural right to do whatever you want with your body. That's what self-ownership means. And this is the reason why state authority is illegitimate, because it is not protecting your natural rights. It's controlling you like a fucking slave. And you did not consent to any of this.
Legal at certain points. Can the government not do that?
The government never had any legitimate authority to make it illegal in the first place.
Oh, sorry. Does the government not have access to an enforcement arm and a mechanism?
It has power. It doesn't have legitimate authority. Again,
it doesn't have legitimate authority. Okay, life abolition. Try telling an officer when you, like, let's say you violate a law, you like go public streaking or whatever, And as the officer is cuffing you, you try telling the officer, like, you have no legitimate authority.
She doesn't understand the difference between power and authority. She doesn't understand the source of the government's authority. She's not going back to the root. She's just saying, this is the law, therefore you must follow. She's not even trying to figure out the source of the law. Even under her theological framing of sovereignty, well, that goes back to God. Because under the British crown, the king was put in power by God. So it still isn't that the king can do whatever he wants. The king had a duty to obey God. The king is not the source of his own authority. The state is not the source of its own authority. It either has to be rooted in God, which I don't believe in, or it has to be rooted in the people. But she doesn't even address that. This is why I have such a problem with lawyers. They seem to think that all laws are legitimate, that they're self-authenticated, that as long as they follow the process, that it's inherently legitimate, and it is not. Why is... Okay. I'm not even going to comment on the fact that she's smiling while people are... Well, I'm talking about real misery that people are facing. This seems to be a joke.
It has power. Power is not the same thing as legitimate authority. Legitimate authority is based on consent. It's based on a social contract. It's something that I consented to. I know you don't think consent matters, but if you're born...
Not in all circumstances.
If you're born into a state and you never consented to it, and the state has unlimited authority to do whatever it wants, that's not legitimate. Where was the consent? The parents consented. I didn't. I have now...
No, Seth Scales. I was not looking at the comments while I was debating her. I couldn't even see it because I was on a completely different screen. The only thing I could see was... I guess I could see the comments on Beth's channel, but not on my own channel because that was on a different screen. So I couldn't see it. I did see the... I'm going to have to call you out. I did see your comment about... You said that my arguments were sloppy. No, it's because of the interruptions. The points that I wanted to make, I never got to make them because she kept interrupting and she kept changing the subject. So the stuff that I wanted to say, I was addressing her questions in good faith. I was not allowed to, whatever. I could have just ignored her, but whatever. I tried to indulge her. I did debate her in good faith. And I did entertain her questions, even though I thought most of her questions were self-explanatory. But it wasn't even about her. It was about the audience. I wanted the audience to listen to me responding and hopefully take something away from it. But no, I didn't get the chance to say everything that I wanted to say. That's why I'm doing this review. But no, I didn't see your comments while I was in the middle of this debate. Everything that I said was based on my own thoughts in real time.
Natural rights. I have rights that are pre-political. My rights don't come from the state. They don't come from the Constitution.
Do the police care if you try and exert your natural rights during the course of them? Okay, so they mean nothing then, right?
No, that proves that the state is violating my natural rights, which is why I'm against the state.
Is that something that you can actually cash? Like, is that a check you can actually cash?
The purpose of the social contract is to protect my natural rights, not to violate them. That's why the state should be dismantled.
Okay, so it's right now it's not. So you currently live in a world where you don't have access to your natural rights. So, like, with respect, and I don't have any other way to say this, who the hell cares?
Okay, I see what you said. You're talking about the question and answer session after the debate. Yeah, you did come up because Beth was wrong about Gnosticism. She was saying that the Gnostics were they supported procreation, and she was completely wrong. So yeah, you did back me up on that point because I don't know what part of Gnosticism she actually studied, but she was wrong on that point.
about your natural
I know
rights?
you don't care. Okay, and that's the reason why I'm not going to procreate. I'm not going to put in, because I know you don't care. And I know society doesn't care. Nobody cares. You're left to it's every man for himself. You want to extract and tell me to procreate, and then once
No, I don't actually. I would like to formally say I don't want you to procreate. I think you've expressed opinions that are pretty concerning.
It's
to me.
mutual. It's mutual.
Yeah.
I think her channel's average female debater or something like that. I don't know. I am subscribed to her channel, but I can't remember the exact name because I think she changed it.
Goes both ways.
Oh, I have.
No, it's right there. It's right there. Average female debater. So look at on her. It is small, but you can see it.
And
I really appreciate the fact that you're child free. I think you're a hero or heroine.
Okay.
Cool. Stay that way. Just stay that way, and you and I will be best friends. And you can get sterilized like I did, because I can hook you up if you come to America.
No thanks. I'm good on that.
We still got 22 minutes. You guys seem
we have another 22 minutes.
Do you guys want to, so that this doesn't go too long? I mean, it's up to Beth, but it's supposed to be an hour, 15 minutes, but you guys are kind of like winding down. I can feel the energy.
I feel like we're ready for closings. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So so how long will we give them for closings? 5?
Well, can we go back to your arguments though? Because
we still got 22 minutes. Keep going. If one of you want to keep going, go ahead, Beth.
Real quick, you guys can make
if you want to keep going.
If you want to shorten it. If you want whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
We're here to accommodate you.
Yep.
And yeah. So
we were on Beth's channel. Tiff Man had his channel, but his channel was taken down. But I requested that he be the moderator. So they're all friends, and so he moderated it on somebody else's channel. So anyway, that I don't know whose channel you were asking about, but we were on Beth's channel. And I did show the name of her channel at the beginning of it. If you go back to the beginning, it shows the name of her channel.
Whatever you want to do.
Well,
doing great.
Life abolitionism seems to want to keep going, so keep going.
Well, we never got to address her arguments. I guess what I would like to know is, why do you think we should reward the state with our offspring? Why is it our problem to prevent a birth rate decline? Why should we even care? Especially if the state is not going to protect our rights, the social contract doesn't mean anything. The state has sovereignty and immunity from its own laws. Why should I give the state, or any of us give the state, children?
So I've never asserted that we need to have children for the state. In fact, my reasons for having children are a bit different. I think it's really valuable to have families, to have legacy, not only for the reasons that the Bible outlines, but also because it is rewarding. For instance, like my father didn't really want to have kids, right?
I don't understand this whole reward. I'm so tired of people using this word rewarding. I think sexual assault is rewarding because you just help yourself to somebody else's body without their consent. I think the same argument applies to procreation. It is rewarding, but you still didn't get any consent. How do you reward yourself with someone else's body and someone else's life?
And now he loves the heck out of me. He's like, he's so happy that he had me. And even if you're looking at it from a secular basis, children provide things that you might even find value.
Did they consent to provide it? Did they get any remuneration for it?
Even if you don't believe in the God-given purpose of having families, for instance, children can teach you things about yourself. They can give you more responsibility. They can shape you as a person.
And yet parents don't even have a duty to leave their inheritance. They can absolutely disinherit their children after they have extracted so much value and have not paid for any of it.
They give some people purpose in life. Most people, in fact, that I've asked that are parents find purpose in having children. And from a strictly selfish position, children take care of you in some instances.
And yet her opening statement said that the antinatalists are the ones who are selfish. And now here she's admitting that the breeders are the true people who are selfish.
They provide valuable members of society to support you. Like for you, for instance, you're not going to have children, right?
Life enslavement. That's what this. That's the moral death for life enslavement. You exist to provide benefits to society, to your parents. All they want to do is extract. What do you get out of it? I have not heard her say anything that you get from it. She asked me, what do I get it? But I didn't hear her tell me. Maybe she thinks she benefits, but I don't benefit from it. She can say I have access to medical care. At the end of the day, she still is making a whole lot of appeals to necessity because I don't have to exist at all. So therefore, if I didn't exist, there would be no need for medical services.
And if you don't have children, and for God forbid, your partner or person that you're in a relationship with were to pass away, you're basically relying on the state or on privatized healthcare, right? That's something that you need an actual human to be in the position to fill in order to provide you with that care. Without humans,
another appeal to necessity. You don't have to exist in the first place. If you didn't exist, there would be no need for medical care.
That just doesn't happen. Right? You just get kind of left off to rot away. So I think there's many reasons to have kids, and I don't accept your position that there's suffering, because I don't think anybody can really predict how a human life is going to turn out.
Well,
we do know how a human life is going to turn out, because every outcome is exactly the same. They all end up in the grave, or cremated, or whatever happens to them. There's only one way out. The outcome is completely predictable.
I was no longer able to take care of myself. I would not want to rot and waste away. I would want the right to mate. But you just said that being like parenting is so rewarding. This I know parents receive all these benefits at their children's expense. It does enrich their life. They do self-actualize at their children's expense. They do get meaning in their lives. And yet, what does the child get out of it? Because there's so much value that parents extract from their own children, and yet there's not even a duty for parents. There is no forced heirships, not in America. There's no duty to leave your children with an inheritance. I'm not saying that not everybody's wealthy, but to the extent that you actually have wealth, you don't have to leave that wealth to your children, even though you extracted all this, even though they're supposed to be your legacy, your continuity, and yet you're going to die and just give your money to somebody else. It's unilateral extraction where children have to exist in order to benefit and enrich their parents, but you don't get anything out of it. Your parents, they rented you, they took care of you temporarily, they gave you the so-called gift that you have to maintain yourself. And many of them drop the ball when it comes to that too, because they don't even provide you with adequate life skills. They don't have a family trade. They don't teach you anything about life. They sit you in front of television, let you figure out, drop you off in public school, and you practically raise yourself. And yet they got all this social validation. They got their esteem needs. They got somebody to control and to abuse. Someone to carry on their legacy. And what did you get out of this? Nothing. And by the way, my father is dead and gone. So he got what he wanted out of me, and now he's dead. And yeah, now
he rest in peace.
And now I'm stuck with the life that I didn't want. He gave his money to his sister. And
so you're salty. You're upset with how things happen. You're upset with how things have turned out for you in life. And now you think for some reason that gives you the justification to say like all.
No, I'm responding to her point. She said it was so rewarding. She said she's operating from a just world fallacy that life is so fair, life is so wonderful. And I'm explaining to her the pitfalls that parents they do recognize that it is rewarding, but they do feel entitled. They don't think that they have to leave you anything. There's no law protecting your right to inherit property.
human beings should stop procreating? Is that what I'm understanding
No,
correctly?
that's not true. What I told you
Okay.
earlier is that I was against procreation at the age of 13, and I reached that position from reading the Bible before, and now I'm no longer Christian. But that was the basis for me becoming an antinatalist before I even knew about antinatalism, because I didn't
Right,
want
but
anybody
13,
to die and go to hell.
your brain isn't fully formed at 13, though.
No, but my reasons changed. Originally, I didn't want anybody to die and go to hell. Now I realize that hell is on earth, and I don't want anybody. So the position has remained the same. It's just justifications have changed. They have evolved. They're a lot more sophisticated than when I was 13.
Okay, so they haven't really changed. So I don't really think that. So yeah, I understand there's going to be families where people do not provide for their kids, but let's look at like just the average age of caregiving, right? Parents do have an obligation, right? Otherwise, it's child abandonment to take care of their children from the age of 0 to 18, right? Most parents, although there are some exceptions, become infirm in their 80s, 70s sometimes, right? And the average age of most human beings is, I think it's like in the late 80s for men and early 90s for women nowadays. It might even be earlier than that. So that seems to me like it's the same amount of time put in terms of a caregiver role on both ends.
Really? No,
Yeah.
no.
Her math is really shoddy. It's really shoddy because it's not just you know they took care of you until the age of 18. No, not only did they. Okay, what she's trying to talk about is your parents took care of you when you were a child until you became an adult, and then you take care of your parents when they become elderly. No, it's not. It's not a wash. They impose life on you. They force. Not only are you supposed to take care of them when they become elderly, but you also have to take care of yourself as a consequence of them imposing life on you. You didn't ask for that shit. You didn't ask to maintain your involuntary existence. So now you're supposed to pay to maintain a life that you never asked for. And on top of that, you have to take care of them when they become elderly. Her math is really shoddy. She's not looking at it. If she's saying that I'm going off feelings, that's what she said in her introduction. No, the math is on their side. It goes against you. They have extracted far more than they have put into it.
No. What? I think you're looking at this wrong. They're not just creating a child; they're creating a complete human being. Yes, they took care of you at 18 until the age of 18, but first of all, that wasn't all care. A lot of us experienced real abuse during those formative years. And then after that, they push you out into the world so you can fend for yourself. So you spend 80 plus years suffering, and then you ultimately die as a result of their decision to procreate. So it's not just the 18. You need to add another 60 plus years to that 18.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about the amount of time that like you're caring for them versus them caring for you. Thought that's what we were talking about.
They should have to take care of you for your entire life. Even after they die, they should leave you some wealth so you don't have to take care of yourself. Because they said it was a gift. How is it a gift if you have to pay to maintain it?
I've already told you I reject your suffering premise. I don't think that it's like a valid concern.
How do you get to reject somebody else's suffering that they didn't consent to? So you get to unilaterally say, I don't care about consent. You have to suffer. I don't care. I'm going to support imposing suffering on future generations. It's not a concern. It's not even worth discussing. And yet we're supposed to care about societal needs. We're supposed to care about society needing a continuing labor force. We're supposed to be invested in the prosperity of the state. Why? We're supposed to be invested in our parents' legacy. Why? How does this benefit us?
Well, but if you procreate to have somebody take care of you in old age, which a lot of them do, I think that is unjustified also. And I don't think that they sufficiently, first of all, they have a duty to take care of you because they created you. So that's something that they voluntarily assume. They assume that responsibility. You did not consent to being brought into existence, so it's not the same. It's the asymmetry can't really be ignored.
Do we
You
do
chose
things without consent though? Like for instance, like do we do like emergency medical procedures without consent to save?
She's moving the goalposts because she tried to say it's the same thing, that your parents taking care of you when you were a child is the same as you taking care of them when they were elderly. No, it is not the same. They chose to be parents. You did not choose to be their child.
Save someone's life.
Well, implied consent. I mean, I guess in law there's that, but no, I don't do things without consent. I don't.
No, I'm just saying generally, like, is it socially acceptable to do things without consent? Because we're talking about society, right? You're talking about human beings should stop procreating because consent and must suffer.
Well, not really for humans. I think for animals, like people do, like they may get their pets sterilized, so they may violate because animals can't give consent. But no, I don't think it is ever justified unless someone is unless someone is actually incompetent.
Right, mentally.
Consent, I mean, but I guess the problem is that there should be a presumption of competence. The way the law works is almost as if we're presumed to be incompetent, that we can't do anything or make decisions, the most consequential decisions about our lives without the state. That the state has this paternalism where it has to interfere and step in and meddle. I just don't. Maybe it doesn't bother you to. I mean, as a man who, believe it or not, I know I'm not the most masculine person, but I am more of a Sigma. I don't like, besides sexually, I don't really like being dominated. And that includes the state.
I don't want to know about that, man. It's good. We're good. I don't want to know about your insecurities in the bedroom.
I don't like somebody telling me what to do. I don't like it. I don't like anybody having authority over me. And it doesn't matter if you're a judge, a police officer. I don't consent to any of it. And the fact that it benefits society does not make me feel better. So when a police officer is pulling me over with a gun on his hip and I'm being harassed, I feel that that is completely unjustified. Maybe you think that it is. Maybe you think that I should starve because I didn't get a license from the state to get permission to earn a livelihood. And I'm sure you support occupational licenses, right? You're not an anarchist.
I have one. I have one. I have a regulatory body, yes.
I don't even want to get into that because I know you don't want to talk about your personal life, but I just listened to you talk about your restricted license. I don't support that. I think that anybody who wants to hire you should have every right. They should have a right to counsel of choice without any interference from the state. We can have a whole debate about that, but I guess we're pretty much done. But no, I don't support occupational licenses. I think the state should step out and leave you alone.
That's to protect the public. That's to protect the public.
Because they're perpetual children who can't make decisions for themselves. That's what I said. There's a presumption of incompetence. These people who are supposed to be adults are perpetual children who can't make basic decisions for themselves. So we all must lose our liberty to accommodate the incompetence.
Right? Because they're incompetent. Because they want to be perpetual children, because they're too stupid to make their own decisions. We must all lose our freedom. How does that work?
No, it's so that you don't. Okay, in a medical sense, right? It's especially like I understand my legal license is like, you know, like it's just fighting over money, but like a doctor has a specific license and goes through specific training so that they don't unalive you on the operating table, right?
Another appeal to necessity.
There's a reason for restrictions of the government and regulatory.
She's not going to argue consent. She's just going to make appeals to necessity. That doesn't work because we don't have to exist. So it's like she's starting from a place of existence. Now that you're here, all these laws and all of these rules are necessary. No, start at the baseline. Procreation is a choice. We didn't have to exist. And so all of your authority over me is completely illegitimate.
Bodies impose.
If I want to hire a crackhead off the street to perform brain surgery on my brain, I should have every right to do that. By the way, it was the American Medical Association that lobbied. First of all, they gave themselves a monopoly during the 1930s, just like the American Bar Association lobbied to give attorneys their monopoly. And then once they got their monopoly, then they said, well, we need to protect doctors. So now we need to lobby to criminalize medical assistance in dying because doctors they have a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. Wait a minute, but you gave yourself a monopoly and now you're going to act like you're the victim because no one else but you can provide that service? How does that work? So it doesn't lead to liberation. It leads to more control and freedom. We lose our rights because other people are incompetent to make decisions for themselves. It's completely self-serving. And by the way, there medical professionals who want to provide that service, the American Medical
You
Association.
said crackheads.
Well, I'm talking about natural rights. But even within your framework where the state licenses professionals, there are doctors who would like to provide that service, but they can't because they would lose their medical license and they would be thrown in prison. So the American Medical Association isn't representing those doctors.
Is there a
It's
reason for
protecting
that,
itself.
though?
I'm sorry?
Isn't there a reason for that?
Well, yeah, there is a reason because they want to extract, because they make more money. Even if you are on your deathbed, they can give you palliative care. They make so much money keeping you alive and keeping you suffering than if you were allowed to just go. So they don't want you to go. They want to prolong your life, prolong your suffering because it protects their profits. And that's all they really care about. It's not about caring for the patient. They don't give a shit about
Prove
the patient.
it. Prove it.
I did. Well, if you're familiar with my channel, I went through the amicus curiae of the Glucksberg case, where the American Medical Association filed an amicus brief explaining line by line their justifications for opposing the legalization of medical assistance in dying. So, if you're interested in proof, you can either listen to that live stream or you can research the amicus curiae for Glucksberg versus Washington.
Well, why can't you explain it right here?
I just told you what it is. They said that they have an interest in protecting their. First of all, it's so complicated, but the reason that loss.
It's so complicated. You wouldn't understand, AVG.
No,
tiny little female brain.
It's going to take.
To...
It's just going to take.
Okay, how dare her say that? I'm the feminist up here. She's anti-feminist, and she's saying I'm insulting her because she's... No, it's not because I don't think she doesn't understand. It's because it's too complicated for the limited amount of time that we had left. And I didn't want to derail the conversation going into details about something that I have already discussed ad nauseum on my channel. I've talked about that case many times. I've written about it in my book. She didn't do sufficient preparation because I asked her if she wanted my book so I could give it to her. But yes, I could have explained it, but I didn't. It's like we kept veering off into these side discussions. It's not because I'm insulting her intelligence. I think she's obviously intelligent enough to understand it, but that was not the topic of discussion. So I didn't even hear her say that, by the way, when we were in real time. I didn't hear her make that comment about her having a small female brain. I would have responded if I had heard it, but yeah, I'm the feminist, so I don't know how you would make that critique against me. You're the anti-feminist.
Take so much time. Let me give you the condensed version.
Okay, well, is it not possible that the reason that they don't support medical assistance in unaliving is because there's like concerns with respect to consent and an individual's ability to be informed?
You asked me a question, so let me answer. There were doctors who actually wanted to assist someone in terminating their lives, but the state sued them and to prevent those doctors from doing it. And then the American Medical Association filed an amicus curiae supporting the state's position. And this is the same thing that happened to Dr. Kevorkian. Dr. Kevorkian was in prison for 7 years, and he lost his medical license because he assisted people in terminating their lives. So this is the tyranny that I'm talking.
Evil.
This is the very tyranny that you support. You are a
Evil,
very
man.
violent woman, unfortunately.
Well,
wish you
if
could stop being
being
so
violent, if being violent means not wanting to let people
Let's-
end their lives over
Let's not do
unnecessary
personal
reasons,
attacks, though. But we
then
6 minutes 48 seconds. Go ahead, guys.
I support that.
Do you think that was a personal attack to say that she's violent? She's not even denying that she's violent. She's actually owning up to it.
That statement, I'll be violent. If
Oh,
that's,
she can
if
take
that's
it.
the
She's not offended. She
She just admitted that she's violent. She knows she is. I don't think I said anything that went below the belt.
you know.
Bro, I got the wait till you guys see my horrible questions after this. Go ahead.
Stop
But
teasing
when you,
us.
but when you, first of all, every law is an act of violence. When you vote, that is an act of violence. You're basically deploying. You're using the state to deploy violence on your behalf. So it's not the police officer that is inflicting violence. It's the public that is doing it. The public is responsible for everything that the state does. And most of these policies, the public actively supports it. It's not like they're innocent bystanders who don't know what's going on.
Okay, so when Renee Good was unalived this past winter, right? Because she used a 3,500-pound weapon to charge at police officers. That was my fault, not Renee Good's for being a dumbass.
Are you serious right now? This is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It's every man for himself. People don't give a
No,
shit.
she used a
I guess I won't respond to that, but I guess you guys have discussed that on D&W's channel. I don't know why his name keeps coming up. Right, you're so right. She did attack, but I'm not offended. I'm not a snowflake. She did attack me the whole time, but I don't take it personally. Like she took some cheap shots, but I can give it just as well as I can take it. So I wasn't offended. I don't think she was offended. I've already seen her debates. I saw her debate that she did with Wishy Bishy. I knew she was going to come out swinging, and so I was ready. I can dish it. So, but again, I don't think that was even inaccurate. What I said was factually accurate. She is a violent woman, but all statists are violent.
the vehicle as a weapon. She
did not use her vehicle as a weapon. She was.
See how their eyes are so skewed in favor of the state that I watched the same video and I saw an ICE agent shoot an innocent woman who's trying to flee the scene. And her eyes, well, she's seeing things based on the spin from the media. The media completely spun that situation. So you don't believe your own lying eyes. You believe what the media told you. She had already passed him, and he shot her after he had passed her he was not, first of all, he approached her vehicle. He approached her vehicle in order to prevent her from leaving. She was not the aggressor. He was the aggressor. She was sedentary in her spot, beeping the horn. And he tried to comment. He didn't even have, again, this is the difference between power and authority. He had no jurisdiction over her in the first place. His jurisdiction was to detain illegal immigrants. She was an American citizen. She was protesting, but because she's biased in favor of the state, she does not see the injustice, and she supports the violence that was inflicted on an innocent woman. This is why I tell you in my book, Chapter 8, the state's violence is always done with the public's consent. They are not innocent bystanders. They know exactly what is going on, and they actively support it. Here is her admitting that she actively supports it. So their blood is on their hands. All the state violence is done with the public's consent.
She did.
And he shot her after she was already well past him. And of course, he gets immunity. He gets off. But you're
5 minutes 27 seconds. Let's not get into that. Let's keep it on the topic, and then we're going to do closings.
It's just so funny how they don't see the state violence. They look right past it because whatever the state does is always right. You're always wrong, and this is the very violence that the public supports.
Never
so you
said
just proved
that.
my point.
Total straw man, by the way.
Listen, we got 5 minutes, right? Keep going, but you're lucky you're not reading chat. I almost rage quit 17 times.
I don't read chat when I debate. It's unprofessional.
But that's the point that I'm trying to prove, that she would not have the right to terminate her own life, but the state could actually do it in cold blood and get away with it. So you don't own your life. You don't have disposal rights. The state has exclusive disposal rights. You must suffer and die. You must languish and just
the state doesn't mandate suffering. No, the state doesn't mandate suffering. Where in the Constitution does it say you must?
The state does mandate suffering if the state is interfering with your disposal rights. If you're forced to languish in perpetuity and die a natural death, yes, the state is forcing you to suffer.
Suffer. Thou must suffer at the hands of the evil imperialists. Where does it say that?
I think democracy is the most violent political system ever devised.
What's the alternative?
Well, anarchy.
Anarchy. So a state where, like, your complaint is that it's every man for himself. So you want to institute a society where it is literally every man for himself. You're like, hey, it's sort of bad enough. Let's just go.
I think we would be better off in a system of every man for himself, because at least you would have the ability to fend for yourself. The state is interfering with your ability to fend for yourself, and the state is not protecting you at the same time. So yes, I could probably defend myself from the criminals. Yes, I could probably have a better livelihood without the interference from the state.
Anarchy would be a system of voluntarism and mutualism, and you would actually have a real social contract where everybody within that society actually agreed to it.
There's no contract.
Not a social
anarchism. Okay, let's go to the definition of anarchy. Can we please do that? Do you accept Merriam-Webster?
No, but it's about how society is structured. It's not vertical, it's horizontal. So you can still have laws. It just would not be top down.
Okay, I would like to bring this up, if I may, 10th man.
Well, I'm an authority on anarchy.
You do what you do. It's 3. Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah.
I'm the resident
didn't have it up
anarchist.
yet, but yeah.
I've written a whole book on anarchy.
May I read for a moment? Anarchy, noun, a state of lawlessness or political disorder due to the absence.
That is not authoritative. If you want to know what anarchy means, then you need to go to the philosophers who created the philosophy. You can't go to Webster's dictionary.
Why not?
I mean, because they're not the authority.
Sorry, it's not a valuable. It's not a recognized source.
No, you need to go to the primary source. That is a secondary source. The primary source would be the philosophers who created the philosophy of anarchy.
Who's that?
Well, that would be Proudhon. That would be, what's his other's name? Kropik. That would be, what's her name?
Why are they the authority?
I'm trying to remember her name. I can
Emma Goldman.
Anarchist.
For some reason, I keep vacillating between Goldman and Goodman, but her last name is Goldman.
Emma Goodman, or is it Goldman? It's Emma Goldman.
Who made them the authority? Who's providing this authoritative standard here?
2 minutes.
Because they're the founding fathers and founding mothers of
Says
anarchy.
Who? You? Says
no,
you?
Because first of all, if you coin the term anarchy, it's safe to say that you are an anarchist. Bakunin, that's another one. Research Bakunin. So if you coin the term, then that makes
look it up, bro. Trust me, bro.
Just like Benatar is the authority on antinatalism. He's not the only authority. but he's the primary authority on antinatalism.
So according to you.
No. Okay. Let me just ask you. Let me just rephrase it. According to the people who follow the philosophy, according to the antinatalists, Schopenhauer and Benatar are the primary authorities on antinatalism. The primary authority on anarchy for anarchists is Bakunin. And Emma Goldman and these philosophers that I just named.
This is like this is a nothing burger.
Just like if I were to tell you that Satan is the authority on Christianity, no, you would say Jesus is, right? You are the Christian, so you get to decide who's the authority on Christianity.
No, the church decides who's the authority. Not me. I'm a woman. Remember?
Oh, you actually.
Right, and she's the one who accused me of saying that women have small brains. And she's the one who's belittling her own gender. She wants to submit to a man.
Agree with that the woman should be silent. You are an anti-feminist.
Submissive to her man and to her father and to the church and to her priest. Yes. God, husband,
I'm not even going to go
wife,
there.
Children.
I'm not going to go there because I consider myself a feminist, and
of course you do.
How is that an insult? How is that an insult to say that men and women should be treated equally?
We all feminists, guys. We got one.
That's it, boys and girls. That was a really good. Feminist. I think you guys both did really, really awesome. I'm shocked. So since he went first as the affirmative, do you want to go first as the closer, or what do we do with that?
So I'm technically the first in the normal debate format, unless he has an objection to it, in which case I'll let him do his thing. But technically I'm the negative, so
LA?
He gets the last word.
You good with that? She goes first with her closing, then you finish up?
That's fine.
So is it 5 minutes, Beth? Shake your head, yes or no. 5 minutes? All right, good. Go ahead, guys. Go right ahead, Paige. Or sorry, AVG.
All right. So what a debate, guys.
No, she's not the one who debated Amanda. It was some other concern. I can't remember the name of her channel, but it wasn't her. She reviewed the video on her channel, but she's not the one who actually debated Amanda.
Guys, all I heard throughout the context of that debate was suffering has been bad for people, ergo end all lives. Who cares about the advancements that humanity has provided and could provide in the future? We know that everybody can suffer, and that even a mosquito bite would be sufficient for one to rebuke their ability to live and exist in this beautiful world, and to make beautiful memories, and to make beautiful families, and to make a life that they can be proud about. And on the off chance, that you might have to, for some reason, rely on the government for services, well, that's just too much of a burden to bear. And we should just send the asteroid. Send the asteroid right now. My opponent provided little to no statistics. To be fair, we didn't really get to statistics on my end either, but it was a whole bunch of nothing. This guy's the authority. This woman's the authority. And let me tell you about the Bible, even though I don't have a spiritual father or a church.
No, we already talked about authorities when it came to anarchy, because she was trying to defer to Webster as being authoritative about what anarchy actually means. Webster is not a primary source. We talk about straw manning. Yeah, she completely straw manned my appeals to authority when it came to that.
I mean, this is just rich. This is just the typical things that I expect coming from the anti-natalist community. They're not sending their best representatives. And I really wish that they would, because there's probably an argument somewhere, but I haven't heard it. By current anti-natalist standards, we should just end any kind of suffering. If a person, stubs their toe, perfect. Let's expose them to the MAID program. My opponent specifically acknowledged at the beginning of the debate, and I'd like to remind you that procreation benefits society. And that in and of itself is a reason to actually continue procreating. It negates the mosquito bites. It negates all these other minor things. And regardless of what he says about his own personal, God sent prophet on the matter, I don't really think that there's a proportionality argument to be advanced here. It's a whole lot of complaining. It's a whole lot of whining. And
did not say that. When I listened to my opening, I told you exactly what she was going to do. Everything that I said in my opening is exactly what she did. And the only reason why I said those things because I listened to her other debates. I knew she was going to do. She was going to say was whining. She was going to make appeals to necessity. She was not going to show any empathy. She was just going to laugh and be dismissive. I knew she was going to do this.
And there's really no justification at the end of it. The only thing that I can agree with my opponent on, closing this out, is that bitches be crazy, that some people shouldn't have children, and that as a whole, human enrichment is only possible if we allow humans to exist. And with that, I think...
Allow? You mean force humans to exist? Is that what you mean?
10th for moderating. I think Beth for hosting. I think Life Abolition for stepping up to the debate podium. Thank you all.
All right, we'll reset the clock. Are you staying for questions from me at the end, though, before we open the panel?
I think I'm going to stop it after I do my closing because I did take all those questions, but that question and answer session was a whole shit show. I don't think I'm actually interested in reviewing that, and it was very lengthy. So I'm going to stop once I get done with my closing.
Sam, but I don't know how much of the panel I got a nap.
No, I'll try to make it fast. But anyway, LA, your time begins now.
Well, she said that life is beautiful, and I'm sure that it is beautiful for her, and I'm sure that it is beautiful for the other breeders of the world whose happiness seems to be derived from at other people's expense. Now, she said that I didn't provide any statistics. I actually did provide the most meaningful statistic, which is that there's not a single person on the planet who ever consented to being brought into existence. That is the only statistic that is relevant. That is the only statistic that should guide your ethical principles. Society and parents do benefit from procreation, yet they don't pay for it. It comes at your expense. This so-called gift is a gift that you have to pay for. You didn't consent to any of the suffering, whether it's the mosquito bite, whether it is getting a tumor, whether it's getting blown up, or being a Holocaust victim, or being a slave. You did not consent to any of it. All suffering is foreseeable, but of course they have this optimism bias where they only want to focus on a positive. Why? Because they're focusing on their opportunity to extract. These people don't have any empathy. And what's more, they actually are the cause of the suffering. They're the very cause of the misery that you experience in life. They literally make everybody's life a living hell because they don't even want to correct the very institutions they support. They support democracy, yet they do support the violence that is inflicted by the state. They don't want these state actors to be held accountable. They support sovereign immunity, qualified immunity. The state can actually blow your brains out in broad daylight, and they actually support it. They think it's funny. You literally heard this discussion, right? Renee, good. Yeah, and so what it comes down to is that these people don't have any empathy. They don't have empathy for their own species, for their own children. And so it is every man for himself. And so because it is every man for himself, you should put yourself first. You should not sacrifice yourself, and you should not sacrifice your potential offspring. You should not allow yourself to be extracted by the status, by these life enslavers. You should be as the least productive citizen you can possibly be. Don't allow them to extract from you. As long as you are useful and beneficial to society, they will never support your right to medical assistance in dying. As long as you're a good person who contributes, yes, they want you here. And they're going to continue to pump out more people to suffer and die. Now, I'm not an atheist, so I'm not sure.
Got 2 minutes, LA.
I'm not sure why she said that I'm calling for the annihilation, at least not I call for the phasing out of the human species, which is David Benatar's position. I don't call for an atomic bomb being dropped on the planet. I don't think any suffering on this earth is justified. The mosquito bites, none of it. The state oppression. And in terms of proportionality, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the mosquito or not, because you didn't consent to any of it. So none of it is justified regardless of proportionality. The proportionality is that, or the asymmetry is that they extracted, they benefited, society benefited, parents benefited, you pay all the costs. If you look at my book, The Life Slaves Ledger, what it shows is that you paid all of these costs for your involuntary existence. You have to work, you have to pay taxes. They got all these benefits. They got all these benefits at your expense, and they don't care. They don't think they should have to pay. So I think the breeders of the world, the people who don't support me, they should have to pay. Not the state, but they personally should have to pay out their own pocket, because they are keeping you here against your will, and they should have to pay for the benefits they receive at your expense.
You good?
I'm good.
30 seconds. All right. Let's kill that. So, LA, thank you very much for coming. Both of you guys did freaking awesome. I was worried about this at one point there, and I'm like,
I think I'm going to stop here. I could go through the questions, but we're already 3 hours in. No, she doesn't have any children yet, but she wants to have children, and whatever, I guess she's going to submit to her husband. All right. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and end it right here. And I don't know what my next live stream will be about, but I do have some ideas for topics. But yeah, thank you for everybody who listened. Hopefully you were able to hear this live stream better than you could hear it the last time. All right, y'all. Have a good day.